should be working now, but we won't be able to tell because the latency is like 20 seconds on the live
Okay.
stream. But guys in the chat, tell us when you can hear us. We won't be able to tell because the latency is like 20 seconds. There we go. Hey guys.
There's people.
Yeah. Some of them are
It
us.
just occurred to me. Yes, it just occurred to me that if I reply on this YouTube thing, my name on YouTube is literally my actual name, and we weren't talking about that.
This all this effort. Like, what should I? Yeah.
Yeah, LOL. Can you guys hear us? Oh my gosh, hi!
Oh, wow.
Hey, it's Anna!
There's so many people.
I
Hi,
love everyone
Anna.
in this
Hi, Danielle.
bar.
We're all shocked
Oh
that
my
we are
gosh.
friends.
JL Anderson Music. I don't actually remember your full name, but hi, I think you're really cool.
That's
Clara's
actually his full
there!
name. It's JL Anderson Music. It's one word.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's first name.
On his birth certificate?
Yeah.
Incredible.
I've seen it.
Hi, Aiden. Oh my gosh, people!
That is how this works.
I just think they're neat.
I just think they're neat.
I just think.
Same.
Anyways. Okay. Should we get going then?
Yeah,
I mean,
we
I was
should.
like wondering if anyone was gonna be there. Hi,
Yeah,
Aiden.
let's do it.
Okay. Cool. So since there are people there, in fact, let's go around and introduce ourselves. I am already talking, so I will start. I go by Adenine online. Also, if I'm in the chat, my name will be Paris. And the people here may refer to me as Paris because to those who don't know, that is my actual name. But so I go by Adenine. You might know me as Adenine or at Bandito Sleepers on Twitter. I am sitting in my car to do this, and I'm really nervous for the show later. I'm very excited, and I can't think of anything else important about myself to say.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Do you want to talk?
Yeah, I'm Lua. I'm at Poptivist on Twitter. I am the person pushing the buttons behind these different screens that you're seeing. So if something goes haywire, you can just tell me in the chat. I started listening to the pilots in 2018 and just basically haven't stopped since then. And that's all there is about me. About Christian, tag me next.
Okay, yeah, hi. I'm Christian. I do stuff. Lua dragged me into this survival cult, and I love it very much. Lua does mostly like experiences the pilots mostly through like visual interpretation. I experience it largely through lyric interpretation and hitting things very hard with sticks. Is how I emotionally process this band. But I'm really interested in specifically with the lyrics room. I'm really interested in how the lyrics like kind of mutated through the crafting process, and also like how these songs are presented visually. So that's very exciting for me.
Neat.
Katie?
Sure. Hi, I'm Katie, at Katie_Allen on Twitter. I haven't been as active in the fan base recently, but some people may recognize me as one of the moderators on Discord Click. I also am an animator and motion designer. I had some stuff in 2019 that people may have seen. Been listening to the band since 2015. I think that's it.
Okay. Hi, I'm Miri. Can you guys hear me? I think my thing's not. Oh, okay. So it's just not lighting up. Yeah, I'm Miri. I'm at Miri underscore on Twitter. I only got that username because I've been on the internet for a long time. And I've been a fan since 2016, and I'm also the person that dances a lot, and thanks to Lua, you might have seen me because she likes to promote my stuff a lot. Thank you.
I'm a big fan. Miri Nation.
Yeah, and I'm just very excited to be here and learn some stuff about the lyrics because I haven't had the chance to dive into them really yet.
Now's the time. I'm gonna switch us over to the actual lyric room. So, you guys in the chat, there's two versions of this. There's one that has like quieter background audio. That's music. If it's too loud, tell me, and I'll switch it to the one with none. But you guys on the call won't be able to hear it. Okay.
Okay, so do we want to, kind of our rough plan is to walk around the lyrics building really quick, to all just like look at it together, and then go room by room and just talk about different aspects of the rooms, like how the lyrics are presented and the architecture of the room and stuff like that. But first we're gonna like just walk around inside, just really quickly and like look at each one, before we go through bit by bit. So that's what we're gonna do. Do you want to do that?
Yeah. So we're gonna start with, I guess, right here, because you don't have to go anywhere to see Saturday. What are your thoughts?
Oh, well, let's just walk around it really
Oh,
quick.
you just want to go
To
through?
just
Okay.
yeah, like literally just click through it really fast and see the different spaces and be like, oh, here is no chances.
Here is no chances. Here it is.
Yep. And then over there is never take it.
Here's good day. And the outside. Am I going too fast?
No, this is great.
Good.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
And there is Mulberry Street. And that little fucking cockroach. And come on, do the thing. Imitable. And should be.
There's two ways out.
I wanted the other one. I'm gonna pretend that's where I wanted to go. Crap.
It's all good.
Here we go. There's Shy Away. Stressful.
People in the chat are saying that the music could be a bit lower.
Okay.
Just thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it petrichor?
Yeah. It definitely.
Hell yes.
Massive shout out to Petrichor because
Yes.
these remixes are beautiful.
They're amazing. It's all I listen to.
And as I was telling Lua last night, like the pitch shift on Tyler's voice always throws me off.
Mhm.
If I hear it when I've got something over my ears, like we did last night during like the test, I was like, "Is this Bo Burnham?" And then I was like, "Wait, no, this is a Petrichor remix." So
One thing
everything
that
that
I
is
love
the 21
about
oh, go ahead.
One thing I love about those remixes is like a lot of the time when you listen to like mashups or remixes, like the pitch sounds like the audio is way weird. And then petrichors are always so like beautifully done. Like even if it's like you know that it's not the original, it doesn't like sound funny. Like it's well
Yeah.
produced. I don't know. Chef's
Yes.
kiss.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Lua, is your thing working?
I think so.
Oh yeah, my screen is just really dark.
So we're
Burn.
back at Bounce
Yeah.
Man. And I think the only one we didn't see was Redecorate because I kept clicking on the wrong thing to get there.
Yeah. Do you wanna?
But it exists. There we go.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay.
This is the one I always forgot how to get to.
There's only one way to get to this one.
Yeah.
There are two ways out.
There are 3 ways out.
3 ways out, that's right.
Yeah, the 2 in the wall, and then you can go down to Bounce Man as well.
Where should we start? Here?
Not sure.
Do you want to start in the main room?
No, that
Just
makes
because
sense.
that's where yeah, and that's kind of where my notes start.
I absolutely know how to get there. I'm just testing you guys.
Yeah, you can go there, and then from there, I think you can click on one of those. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, do we want to start talking, and then? Yeah, and then we can discuss more.
Yeah, do it.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and start. So basically, I'm not gonna worry about time this first time because I don't know But yeah, so I'm gonna just describe the room. So my notes. So in this room, this is where we start. Trash is on like a dais in the center of the experience. When you start from the experience, like you actually start over at Saturday and you're looking at trash in the middle with the spotlight on it. It's the first thing that you see. It's got a spotlight on it from the top for emphasis. I kind of suspect that you're expected to click on trash first, and that'll show you kind of how you can move around. I think it's interesting that there's the spotlight in the top. There's sunlight actually in I think all of these rooms. And here it's sort of a skylight up above you, which I think is interesting in how it relates to the lyrics of like the river only blinds you, and I think of the stream where like he looks up towards beam of like sunlight and is blinded by that. So I think that this presentation is reminiscent of that as well. I think it's interesting that trash is kind of the way that he appears is unique to this building. Like he's inanimate, but he's also like as tall as you are. He's not tiny. He's like a big statue, like not unlike the statue in Dima is like a big statue, and he looks sort of worn and like weathered, which I think is interesting too. In terms of the architecture of the room itself, it has a bunch of exits, and it sort of gives you the impression that you can fall in any direction. Like you could fall through the wall, you can fall through the floor.
Oh, that's interesting.
Or you can kind of descend through any of these, which and I think it's interesting that it does feel like each one is like a hole or like a set of stairs going down. Like that's how they feel to me. Like you're descending and sort of tightening as you leave the room, which to me makes the room feel like it's simultaneously like really cavernous and big and also really claustrophobic at the same time. And I also find it to be like really disorienting, which I think is probably on purpose. Like that the lyrics building is disorienting and confusing, and there's a lot of ways in and out of things that aren't always apparent what they are. So I think it kind of sets you up to understand what the rest of the experience is going to be like pretty well. And also, it doesn't give you a good sense of direction, which is something that we saw a bunch of times, like in Trench, you know, like not knowing which way is out or like the compass lines and like stuff like that.
Your audio is cutting out a little bit.
Oh, is it?
Is it just me?
No, I hear it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm losing you a little bit. Do you want to stick it out, or is inside like which is better?
How bad is it?
It's I think we're still getting most of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to make you aware of it.
Yeah, I'll try to stick it out, and then if it is bad enough, let me know, and
Okay.
I'll just go inside.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay.
I'll also try to talk a little.
I think it's the
Easier.
noise gate thing that Discord has, but
Oh, really?
it's
Okay.
only cutting off the end of what you're saying. You can just say an extra word at the end of each sentence.
Just say like LOL every time you finish talking or
For
something.
everything.
LOL.
Yeah.
I think this is really informative, LOL.
Okay.
Okay.
So what I was saying, like, hopefully this just is fine. Anyways, so you kind of don't have a good sense of direction. Like, you don't really know up versus down or east versus whatever or whatever. Like, there isn't a good sense of where you are. And I think that the lyrics of Saturday being sideways on the wall are supposed to kind of feel that way too, of like, what is right side up, you know? Like, is going down into that hole, is that like, are those stairs that you're descending? Is that part of the wall? Like, it's not really clear. And so I think that disorientation is like supposed to be there too. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's much different than I thought of it, which is not surprising at all.
Okay, well, do you want to talk?
Yeah, sure. It didn't even occur to me that, like, trash is really big. In my head, I guess I just assumed I was really small. For some reason. I don't know why. I think it is very intentional that these two parts of the song, one is taped up with yellow and the other is taped up with pink. I think they mean different things. which would be a lot to dive into. But in short, I think that yellow is associated with choice and pink is belief. Not necessarily a good, a true belief, just a thing that you believe. And I think those inform all of the choices in this album. But also, I thought it was really interesting that you said, you could fall in any of these directions. Because to me, looking at them, I just see it's perpendicular to me. It's just right, it's like a wall. So, in that kind of parking lot space in Shy Away, where things are floating around and it's kind of this liminal space where like you're not one place or the other and like physics isn't working like it's supposed to. I thought I didn't really conceptualize any of these as down. I just thought that like kind of the dimensions were changing on you so that you couldn't orient yourself. But nothing was down rather than all these directions are down. If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, it feels very Ender's Game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And also the statue of trash, I think this is very much like a temple like you would see in a video game.
Yeah.
Because that's, I mean, when you go in a temple in a video game, you have the totem or the figure that's central to it all, and it's like generally stone around it. And I think trash is the thing that's being worshipped one way or another, similar to the Dima statue, in that like the guy that is the Dima statue, he thinks he's looking up, and he's most of the way there. He's pointing his head up. He's got his arms raised, but ultimately he's looking at his own hands, like.
Yeah.
And yes, I think it's self-worship. The end. That's my thought on that.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to talk next?
I've got a couple of thoughts that are just kind of fun. The trash that we see on this one, like I have like I see it and I'm like, this reminds me a lot of like the giant like paper mache stuff that like sometimes art classes do in like
Yeah, I was
elementary and
thinking
middle
it's paper
school, and like
mache
it
too.
and it like lives in the library, but like the texture of the object, it's hard to parse whether or not it's actually concrete or what. And I have a lot of questions about who made this and how they made it, and how much this is like an object created by the person who is like leaving us notes. I also like Lua, like I noticed that we've got both yellow and pink on here, which are two of like our big era colors. Um, and I think the only place that we see all three colors is gonna be redecorate.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But
trash is blue.
yeah, I mean, okay, like trash is blue, but like trash is gonna trash is gonna be blue like
Trash gonna blend.
regardless.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Um, I also think like lyrically, Choker's kind of unique, and I think a lot of us kind of have different views about it. Did we want to get into lyrics yet, or did we just want to like look at the space?
Sorry.
Yeah, sure. We can talk
Okay.
lyrics. At least I'm cool with it.
Yeah. Um, um, I know I'm like one of the folks in the fandom who takes like a more hopeful view of this song than some folks. It was kind of a catalyst for me to make some big life changes this year. But one of the things that I notice about it specifically is that in the outro, um, death is eternal, which is kind of unusual for something that Tyler would write.
Mm.
I know that when he talks about Trench, like he talks about Trench as a space like where he's experimenting with like the idea of like what a world without God would be. And this is almost like a secular humanist idea that like, you're as you gain like life experience, like, looking back isn't necessarily helpful. You're building your capability, you're building your strength, and you're doing it in this life.
Mm.
Um, and so like that was really interesting to me, just like as I was kind of going through the lyrics to prep for this, that I can't stop thinking about that.
Ugh,
But yeah,
I think you're so wrong.
that's great. Like all I ask is that you don't kill me in my sleep. Like,
Right.
if I'm
Face to
awake,
face.
like I'm
I'll
here
never
for it.
stab you in the back. It's
Yeah.
always gonna be in the front.
I'm ready.
I mean, I think you're right that it's definitely, it sounds like something he wouldn't write, but I also think, cause nobody asked for my opinion, I just jumped in, sorry. That
Oh, that's great.
the, like, it's deceptive. I think it's meant to mislead you. Like you're following your own shadow, and that will lead to your permanent death. Like, if the sun is behind you, you are going east perpetually, but you're only following your own shadow, and eventually that's what's gonna kill you. And it's telling you that, the whole spirit of like this whole body of work is like introspection, retrospection, like just those are important, and that's the thing that makes you grow. And this song is like, probably not great. Maybe don't look to the past. And that seems really disingenuous, but plausible as advice. I think it's, I think it's misleading.
It's almost impossible for me not to say like, but is it possible?
Yeah, oh my god.
I was waiting, yeah.
See, but like,
Okay,
and this is
before we talk more about the lyrics, Katie or Miri, do
Yeah.
either of you want to like say stuff about the room? But then we can go back to talking about the lyrics. I just want to make sure everyone gets a chance to talk if they want to.
Yeah, sure. I just have one like note written down basically for this because I also think obviously the tape is very intentional on the different parts of the song. And then I don't want to jump ahead, but I know we're gonna see the tape and the papers again in the redecorate room, and I've just noticed that the tape correlates to different types of paper. So like the pink tape always has a certain type of paper that looks like it's been there longer or it's like older. So yeah, I feel like I have more to say about that in regards to redecorate, but yeah, so maybe some stuff that's taped up with pink might be like an older idea kind of, and then the yellow stuff is kind of newer stuff and written in a newer mind or fresher mindset.
That's cool.
I really like that. That's going to be so interesting to talk about when we get to redecorate. Because I did not notice that. Good catch.
Yeah, good eye.
Katie, do you want to say anything before we talk about like the
I think most of like my main points that I was thinking of have already pretty much been brought up, and I don't have a lot else to add to them. But one of the things that I was kind of thinking of still, sorry if you can hear that cuckoo clock in the background.
You can't, but now I'm imagining it.
But something I had found a interview for everyone listening with Billboard with the designers of the lyric room, and it didn't give us a lot of information we did already had, but one thing that I kind of pulled out of it that was interesting, kind of looking back through it again, is it was kind of mentioned that they kind of had the idea of this being walking through Tyler's mind, almost. Trying to look up the particular phrasing. The exact sentence is, "We tried to create a place where you can look inside Tyler's head and see the origins of the story." He describes it as a maze you have to walk through where you won't know if you've seen everything, with hundreds of thousands of routes tied to a key aspect of the album's creation. And this particular article came out before we even knew about the lyric room, so they were keeping it intentionally vague. Key aspect of the album's creation being the lyrics.
That does seem important.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so it is kind of interesting walking back through it and kind of with that in mind, with that idea of you kind of keep getting lost. It's really difficult to figure out which direction you're going, what leads to what, which direction is up, which is down, where you mentioned. I didn't even fully think that through until you mentioned it, but it is a cool point that like there are stairs in the walls and the ceiling. You don't it's very disorienting.
Yeah.
It's interesting that none of the directions are obviously down from the main room.
Mhm.
Like, they
Mm.
all seem equally, they all seem like equally viable paths. Like, they're all weird, but none of them is obviously, like, directly down in a clear way.
Yeah. One thing that I was thinking about, I do want to get back to what we were talking about for Choker. I didn't mean to like derail that or whatever, but one thing that actually I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save it for when we get to Formidable. But like in terms of whether or not you are actually walking around in a real space, like that kind of immersion, like that's very much in question in certain moments. Most of the time you feel like you're walking around in a physical space, but there are moments where it sort of breaks, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is another interesting thing. But yeah.
I think we should keep going with the rooms rather than continuing on with the lyrics. Is that okay with you, Kristen?
Yeah, that's great. Let's do it.
Okay. Wait, what were we talking about with Choker though? We were saying
what were we
like
talking about? I was just telling Kristen
wanna
he was
remember.
wrong because that's what I do.
I mean, yeah,
LOL.
that is the basis of our relationship is being
Yeah.
wrong at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do we want to talk about Saturday being on the wall at all? I don't really have anything else to say about it.
I think it is interesting in that, like, in the visualizer, you have those, like, triangles that, I don't know if they're spinning or, like, concentric or something, but they are, like, disorienting. And I think Saturday doesn't really have anything that's, like, very complex about it. It's like, hey, I'm a little drugged. It's going weird for me. Like, it's not, there's not a lot of, I don't want to say depth there, but it's a little straightforward.
Yeah.
Cannot wait to be wrong at you about this.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I just spotted where it's like trying to juggle windows here. I just now noticed where in Saturday the alternate title was Paint the Town.
Oh wow.
Oh, was it?
It's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I
literally
literally
right there.
did not notice that. Wait, can you look at it?
Yeah.
Oh, I just can't see because my brightness is too low.
Oh, I have no excuse at all. It's just right there.
Interesting.
Amazing.
It's written in words. Wow.
Yeah.
Also, like, redecorates alternate title being display. I was like, I don't know what to make of this, you know?
That is
I find
interesting,
it
yeah.
so interesting that they shared so much of this stuff with us. Like, God bless you guys.
Mhm.
I love that display can either be like a noun or a verb. Like it's like this is a display like you look at versus like here is my threat display.
Yeah.
Like
I thought it was
this is
weird.
how I make myself look big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. It's weird that they're considering the thing that might be left on display is their mess, but they're talking about it in a way that suggests their mess is all the evidence of them as a person. Like, 'cause
Right.
the question isn't are they going to leave my room messy? It's are they going to leave it as I had it? But what they see is a mess. So by cleaning it, they're like erasing. I don't know. That's what it sounded like to me. There's
No,
confusion
yeah,
between
okay.
cleaning up and cleaning up in the sense that you're sanitizing it, like you're removing. Because why would your parents or whoever leave your messy room on display? They'd at least clean it.
Yeah. Okay, I totally want to talk about this. Can we wait until we get to the actual room? But oh my god, I have so many thoughts and I can't wait to talk about it.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, before we leave this room, really quick, I also like I thought it was interesting that they put Choker in like the middle of the experience. Like it's very much like the center point of this. And it kind of reminded me of like Doubt being the center of the blurry face imagery or the center of the towers, you know, of sort of like at least that's kind of how I felt about it, of like here's this thing that is going to be like this, I mean literally like the central pillar of what I'm saying, you know? For blurry face, like this Doubt, you know, being this uncertain part of yourself, this part of yourself that seeks to self-isolate, this, you know,
Yeah, that
this
line,
whatever.
fear might be the death of me. That's like the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then I feel like Choker kind of is given that same like prominence like in this lyric room because they put it in the center in this way. It sort of feels to me as though it's like they're saying at the center of this whole experience is this idea that like I am unchangeably bad, you know? Like and I know Christian that that's not how you like interpret the song and whatever, but like at least for the chorus, you know? This feels like the anti fairly local to me in terms of
Yeah.
like going from like, you know, that's not who I truly am. I truly do have a chance to like I was born a choker, you know, this is how I was created and I'm not going to change from this. Like at least that's how I interpret the song and that's how it comes off to me. So it seems to me like by putting that particular song at the center of the thing that they're giving it this idea of like this foundational kind of struggle that is um behind all of the other things of like I something is wrong with me and it can't be changed. Like that's
Ooh, can I add to that?
that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, sure.
The it makes me think of Tyler saying in an interview that the bridge, um, which is where whatever the phrase "I need to move right now." He said like it sounds really simple, but that is like the whole of who he is as a songwriter, and I think that that's because all of these people in this story, like just like in the music video for Choker, he's saying, "I need to move right now," and he's got this little thing that he wants, and he runs with it. Like this is going to be the thing that changes his circumstances, and it's these people that are acting on instinct, and they're just making the first move that they can make, whether it's to run away or get drunk or kill yourself. You know, it's the "I need to move right now," and the things that take place in this story are the results of that. Um, in my head.
Yeah.
You can't see this, but I'm just cradling the bridge of Choker and telling it that I love it so much
It's very
and not
nice.
to listen to the bad people.
Don't listen
Okay.
to
Do you want to like say anything in reply? Or we can move on. We could also, if you want to like tell us that we're wrong back, that is also okay.
Absolutely. Let me tell you how you're all wrong.
All right,
Um,
I'm ready.
so yeah, no, so here's my reading of Choker is that this is a song about someone who does not by nature um make noise, push back, or has, when you talk about like fight or flight, a lot of people forget about freeze. And so this is someone who like when confronted will, is inclined to freeze, or has habitually frozen or like fails to rise to the moment. And, when you self-identify with that or when you notice that as part of your nature, like that creates a new level of challenge in making choices about your life. And a lot of times that results in just not making choices about your life and just kind of being pigeonholed or pushed or railroaded. And when you get to the bridge of the song, our speaker, who may or may not be Tyler, because when we write, songs and poetry, that's not necessarily the case. Although with Tyler, it certainly seems to be the case more often than not. You have someone who's like, nobody is gonna, back me up on these fears. No one's gonna take the ultimate cost of action on with me. Like I have to do this on my own. And so that's like this is a person who's like, okay, fuck it, I have to do this on my own because like nobody's pushing me in a direction that actualizes me. So I have to do this on my own. I have to confront this by myself. And so when I hear Choker, what I hear is a song about someone who, is carrying a lot of pain, carrying a lot of difficulty with, acting on their own agency, and then having that moment like, okay, so I have to do this, and the result of that action is becoming a stronger person and having more control over your destiny and having more control over like what you're doing. So like in some ways like I liken it to I'm someone who has like I got diagnosed with like major depression and anxiety like before I even hit my teens. um and that's a thing that is a challenge, like and sometimes I fall back on like, oh yeah, like depression like doesn't let me do shit.
Mhm.
um and Tyler, as someone who has like not necessarily in as many words said, oh yeah, I have this mental illness, but the way he talks about his experience is like, oh yeah, no, like I recognize this, and this. Um, making that decision to, like, in spite of, or as a part of living with, like, having to push through and having to find strategies. And so, like, choker is really dear for me in terms of, like, not, I don't want to say like not letting it hold me back, because like that's like, saying someone who uses a wheelchair is, choosing not to walk.
Yeah.
But it's one of those songs that's like, it's a good catalyst and a good reminder, like, hey, what agency I have, like I do have a choice to, like, make use of what I've got in whatever situation, and not to get so caught up in, like, my what I'm experiencing and what I know I can and can't do. um you
Everyone in
know
the chat is Team
in,
Christian, by the way.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, so like this is where I am on chokers. Like that's what I read, and like people hear it as isolation. And it's like, yeah, no shit, isolation. Like that whole experience is profoundly isolating,
Okay,
and that
so
whole experience. Yeah.
what do you
Go
think?
ahead.
What do you think of the line specifically? I see no volunteers to co-sign on my fears, because what I hear in that is like, there's an implicit other when you're co-signing. You're signing a contract. Like he's describing himself as alone, but it's someone else's terms
Yeah.
he's agreeing to. Like he's not actually alone. He is being complicit with someone else's ideas about how he is and how he exists. So what is I don't know, how do you hear co-sign on my fears? I don't know what that means exactly, and why you need that. Like somebody else
Yeah.
to be depressed with you? Like, is that what you're looking for?
I think, like, the way I hear that is, that the things that I'm afraid of are not necessarily, I don't want to say not necessarily real, um, but that, I think it's that forced confrontation wherein you have to do the thing on your own. Like someone isn't going to, like, stop being afraid for you, and someone's not going to, like, you have to take the action on your own. It's like it's like when you have to, do any sort of, like, treatment for something. It's like, someone can't recover for you.
Mm.
You have to do that. And the other, I think, in this world, I think the other in this situation is, the experience of living. Like, you I mean, technically you can opt out of that, but we would prefer you did not do that. That's largely the point of 21 Pilots. um but it's just so, the thing that you have to sign on to is living your life, and others can't do that for you. So
Got it.
that's kind of where I am on that. And I acknowledge that this is my reading and not everyone's reading, and that's awesome, because I love people hearing what they hear in art. So yeah,
Thank you for answering
You're
my
so
question.
wholesome.
my giant choker
Okay.
soapbox, everyone.
Okay,
I love it so much.
really quick, do any of us have to leave at a certain time? Because I do want to make sure that we get to all of them, but I also am really enjoying talking, and so I'm, like, just thinking about time management. Like, do any of you have to leave at some point?
I don't have a life.
No, I'm just
I don't have anywhere to be, so
I have
not today at least.
Not
let's see what
today.
time. It's many hours from now that I have to be gone, so
Okay.
I'm good.
okay.
Cool. Okay, do we want to go to the next room? And then honestly, like, I feel like what's gonna happen is we're gonna, like, go between all the rooms, and then we're gonna have so many things that we want to talk about the lyrics, and then we can just,
Yeah.
I don't
Work it
know,
out,
do
work it out.
both. I
Pick
don't
a
know.
room.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know, because something I'm looking at a lot too are where lyrics were changed.
Yes.
And I
Mhm.
don't know if that's worth jumping in on, like,
Yeah, do
now
it.
or later
Yeah.
when we do the lyric stuff. But I guess for Choker specifically is one of the ones that had a major change.
Try to keep that very casually.
I always have to take the long way around because I
Yeah.
can never remember the shortest path back. But Joker did have a major change where the verse cut us open, spread us out, dry us in the sand, lay the fibers side by side, and you'll begin to understand had 2 lyrics that were crossed out.
Mm-hmm.
Dry us in the sand was originally fibers on the ground, and then and you'll begin to understand was and you'll see why I'm stepping out
Mm-hmm.
is what it kind of looks like, which
Wait.
was
Yeah.
Lua, can you go there? Because the at FPE__art Clancy's Journal on Twitter, shout out, thank you so much for making that graphic. But so you see stepping out, they put wrapping out.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it. I'm not totally sure.
Yeah.
yeah,
It
it's
looks like
really hard to
stepping.
read.
Unclear. Stepping?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's 2 P's at least, and there's
there's
definitely
2 P's and a G.
Yeah.
Well,
He could be
wrapping
dipping
also
out.
has
Yeah,
has
but
2
Ooh, could be
wrapping
Dipping
doesn't make
out
sense
might fit
contextually.
too.
Yeah.
I think it's either stepping out or dipping out, which both kind of mean the same thing.
Yeah.
He's
I'm
verbing
dipping.
out. He's just verbing out, guys. As long,
God,
as,
you're so
as,
right.
long
I
as
think-
his verb ends in out, we know what he's doing.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
but-
the
but
point
Katie, what were you
here
saying?
is he's leaving something.
Yeah.
But that, to me, looking at that, kind of changed what I kind of thought this was about, too. In general, like, it's a very defeated song. At, like, first interpretation, I guess. But I'm not going to go too far into this because anyone who's ever talked about this with me before knows that I can go on for hours.
Somebody stop by the
But-
thumbs down our discussion.
What?
Yeah.
Amazing.
What?
Sorry, go on. I just noticed that there's
I love
a thumbs
that.
down.
There is?
Yeah, it's cool. Fuck it.
LOL.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I can't even
Anyways.
make your day a little worse.
Hey, buddy, I hope you're having a bad time. Anyway, sorry, Katie, what were you saying?
Continue.
Oh, and then the other big change, before I forget it, was seems like all I'm worth is what I'm able to withstand. I haven't looked at what the Twitter said that was changed to, or it's been a little while since I looked at that, but it looks like to me seems like all I'm asking for could fit inside my hand, or it might be seems like all I'm working for could fit inside my hand. It kind of
Yeah,
looks
that's-
like asking.
That's the what the graphics from Twitter say that what that might say.
Working or
Okay.
asking?
Working for-
It seems like all I'm working for could fit inside my hands.
Yeah. Which
Well, but how did this change your interpretation? I know you said you could go on for hours. I would listen to you for hours. Like, we're gonna try to talk about all of them, but I'm really curious what
Yeah.
how shifted
I
it.
mean, something, again, a lot of my interpretation around Trench specifically had to do with it being about him trying to sort out what he believes. And the idea of, like, that spiritual journey, or whatever you want to call it, as far as moving towards what he was told as a kid, what the beliefs that were, like, handed to him he didn't get much of a choice in, versus now him as an adult sorting through all of it and going, okay, I want to make this choice for myself. What is actually mine? And so with, like, Dima being the old systems where he was told exactly what's right, what's wrong, this is what you're supposed to be doing, that sort of stuff, whereas Trench was a little more freeing, where you're another big thing, if you've not seen my interpretations and stuff before, I'm big on symbolism, and I picked up fairly early on that he seems to be using a lot of symbolism that is kind of rooted within, like, biblical, or just sort of in, some people don't like it when I use this term, but in the broader sense of what I'm talking about is technically correct, like Christian mythology, effectively. So where was I going with that? Oh, but like trench being wilderness, effectively, just out in the unknown, whereas like wilderness as a biblical symbol is literally means the unknown or uncertainty. So try. Ooh, I keep going on tangents sort of and trying to figure out how to pull it back to what I was saying. But yeah, to me, Choker, like at this point, where that line, and you'll see why I'm stepping out. To me, it's either if this was part of Trench, I would say that that's more of like, you'll see why I'm leaving this. Like, this is why I'm leaving and going to try and find it out myself. Whereas, and I have a soapbox for another song lyrically that is kind of like what I see Skeleton Icy is about, but the why I'm stepping out or dropping out being more of a I've got to go back to what's familiar for a little while. I gotta lean on this. Too much is going on. I'm going back for a bit because it's safer. I'm scared out here.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought of it like that, but that's really cool. Also, if we are going to talk about Choker lyrics for a little while, I think it's interesting, and Katie, I'm interested to hear what you think of this line as well, but I think my interpretation of I need to move right now is different from both Lua and Christian's, in that it's kind of more similar to, I think, what you were just saying, Katie, in terms of, I think of it almost like Not Today, where he says, like, you're out of my mind, you know, you're not seeing my side, like, I'm gonna, like, you want me, you're gonna tear the curtains open, you're going to move me out of this, like, bad space, you know, and I'm trying to avoid you, like, you know, there are a lot of lyrics in that, I can't think of them off the top of my head for some reason, but of being like, I'm not gonna go with you into this better space, and that's kind of how I've been interpreting that lyric of, like, you're gonna change my circumstance, so I need to get away from you. So not even necessarily like moving to a different or better space
Well, that's
in any
interesting.
kind of way, or even an impulsive space, but just being like, I need to get away from this thing that's going to actually change my life in some way. Or like, you're gonna try to shake me out of this, and I'm gonna try to just avoid that so that I can stay the same, you know?
Oh, I see.
So that's how I was reading that
interesting.
line, which I think is more similar to what you were saying. Thoughts?
That's cool.
Opinions?
Trying to formulate.
I'm sorry for
so-
like impulsively clicking around. I can stop that if it's distracting.
It's fine.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I do want to kind of go back to what Katie was saying, is that I think that there is a real tension kind of throughout Tyler's work with the tenets of evangelical Christianity. And this is not the space to discuss that, but I think that it's interesting that other people are seeing it. So.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Slow
realized you
nod.
and I have never had a drawn-out conversation about this. I don't think. I think we've just barely talked on Twitter a handful of times. But yeah, it's not the space, because that's an hours-long conversation.
That's
a way
at
to get
least like
yourself
the
canceled on the
masterpieces.
internet. Unless you delete them.
I'm a
LOL.
41-year-old man who lives in a basement. Come on, cancel me. I'm the most doxable trans man on the internet. Like, there's my real name. Here's my face.
Here's all my golden retrievers.
Yeah, here's the 3 golden
Friendship
retrievers that live in my
question?
trench coat.
Anyways.
Should
Okay, well, do we want to
switch
move on to a
another
different
route?
one?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just talked about that for literally an hour. So. At
Oh,
least
we
so
did.
like we can
So-
say.
I like that the premise here was that we were going to manage time.
Okay. For real, actually, do we want to like limit how
I
many
think we
rooms
should
are?
try it. I think we should give it a go.
Try to limit, yeah, because I think otherwise we're gonna literally pop off. And also, if we all have time, then like at the end we can just go back to the things we want to talk about.
Okay.
So maybe like, there's No Chances and Never Take It is 1, Good Day on the Outside is 2, Formidable and Mulberry Street is 3, Shy Away is 4, Redecorate is 5, Bounce Man is wait, 6. Okay, well there's either 6 or 7, and I might be an idiot who's not able to count. Very interesting. Might have to drop out of college, but so like, if I don't know, maybe like half an hour each. That'll still be a long time, but it'll
Yeah.
be more than if we did an hour
I think we're
each.
probably gonna reassess that, but I think we should try the let's do the 3 minutes round robin, knock it out.
3 minutes round robin thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Should I start again for this room like we were
Sure,
saying, or does
yeah.
somebody else want to start, or what?
Go for it.
This one I have a lot of notes on as well. So basically, I'm going to set a stopwatch on my phone because I'm gonna try to not talk forever. Actually, this part will probably each be more concise if we're just talking and not discussing. But anyways, okay. So this room. So No Chances is written on a piece of paper that is literally halfway off a ledge. When you're looking at it, you have to be standing halfway off the ledge. You're standing on a ledge to look at this thing, which
Mhm.
is, one, very levitate, like keep me down from the ledges, and two, it's very precariously in danger, which you are also very precariously in danger in the song. You're deciding whether to stand your ground and fight, whether to run away, whether to go with the sweet people who are calling to you. Like, what are you gonna do? It's a precarious situation, and is one of the most in danger songs, I would say, that you feel on this album. In most of the cases, you don't feel like you're in danger, although you are. You can also see from the Never Take It close-up, which you can't actually get to from standing here, but if you look at the No Chances lyrics from the Never Take It close-up, you're on a ledge that's like against the wall. It's just a flat wall, and there's a little ledge like protrusion from it. So there's no way to get off of this ledge except to like jump. So you're kind of deciding whether, whatever. There's no other way off of it. You can't actually get off the ledge from standing here. The only place you can go from there is to the next room, which don't do that, but like, so thought that was interesting. Also, I think it's interesting that the two songs in this room are both ones that present external threats. Like, No Chances is the song that gives us an antagonist with two faces. We've got our honest and frightening antagonist, who's like, we come for you, and the other one is like empathetic and deceitful, sort of like Keon's was in that one Clancy letter, and we know that's how the bishops kind of operate. But so we've got a clear external antagonist in No Chances, that's the bishops. And then in Never Take It, we also have a clear external antagonist, which is the media. So that's talking about left and right in the scratched out lyrics, and so we kind of know the real life analog of like what you're talking about in that song. But regardless of how you interpret that song, if it's about, some people think it's about like the Trump administration, some people think it's about the libs, some people think it's about all of media, which is probably the closest to how I interpret it, of more about just like the way media operates, or like the internet or whatever. But in any case, that again is a clear external antagonist, which I think is interesting in terms of how we're pairing the different songs in some of these rooms. Other notes that I have, I love the stairs in this room. I don't have anything interesting to say about them. I just like them a lot. And also shout out to Anna's piece of art that she did with that like skeleton thing that was in that room that like looked like it had these kinds of stairs. I loved that. That's not anything to do with analysis, I just like it. I think it's interesting that the room is like not fully open to the ceiling, but there's a view to the outside. Yeah, also from here, from the No Chances close-up, you can only go to the Good Day room. You can't go zoom in on Never Take It or go back, which I think is probably meant to like force you to explore a third room. So I'm not too sure about a deeper meaning for that. I kind of, when I was exploring this on my own, I was like, oh, I see that with Trash the Dragon, they're trying to like show you that you can click on things to move around in a room, and this one I think was just again showing you that. So I couldn't at least think of a deeper meaning for that, but that's those are my thoughts. And I talked for
Nice.
3.5 minutes. Nice,
That was
go
good.
me.
That's
Thank
super
you.
cool.
Does anyone else want to go next?
If nobody does, I will. But any of you guys want to take it? No? Okay.
Go for it.
I don't have notes
Go for it.
because I was very stressed about getting the software right. But the way that I thought it was really cool that you said it's halfway up the ledge, although I guess I'm not supposed to be responding, just describing. But the way that I saw this was kind of on a counter, like it's being presented to you. Like, these are the terms and conditions of existing in the culture as we know it. It's like at chest height. It's presented like a document. Whereas the never take it thing is kind of like the writing on the wall. It's written in what appears to be chalk. But I also think,
freaking chalk! Okay, wait, sorry to interrupt you. This whole time I'm like, silver Sharpie question mark? Like, it literally didn't occur to me chalk. Anyways, I'm sorry.
chalk does
you can
exist.
keep talking.
Yes, it's a thing.
I forgot about it.
I do think this
Sorry.
is so minor, but I do think the summer, what is it? I watched the tube. I do think that is both television and YouTube. Nobody cares about that, but I think it stands for both. But I think this presents us. I think never take it is a false binary. I think that it's posturing. I don't think it's a real. It seems generic to me. Like, the most that it's saying is we're being exploited, and gosh darn it, we don't love it. Like, I don't. It seems superficial, and I don't trust that. And I think that No Chances is, the speakers here are representative of those, the powers that be, that would be the media or whatever. Like, the people that are coming for you, that are the authorities, are the same people that are, I think, implicitly in control of, the same people that are in charge in Never Take It, and the same people that are in charge in No Chances, I think. I think that's like an implicit thing, but it may not be. I think that the stairs to me are there's a specific series of events that you had to take one by one to get here, and it's just as hard to get back out. Like, it was a deliberate thing going down, and it has to be a deliberate thing going back up. But yeah, I don't know that I have anything else to say about that. I think that's it.
I have some kind of similar thoughts about that. I do think it's interesting that these two songs are in the same room. One thing that's interesting about Never Take It is that it's really backed into a corner. And given that Tyler's gotten hit pretty hard a couple of times when he tries to make direct social commentary on Twitter, and the song is like such a balancing act, he's not really that kind of artist. Like, he's talked about like his specific aims, which are, keeping people alive and getting people to think. But so it's cramped in the lyric space. I don't know, like it feels like he's trying to express some things that, depending on how you interpret it, like any number of people are gonna come for him.
Yeah.
Which, pairing that again with like No Chances We Come For You.
But then ultimately you say nothing.
Yeah, exactly. But what's great about that is that, that's one of those things, like, I know, like, back when Trench came out, Levitate exists both in like the actual world, because he's referencing like car radio and he's referencing industry, but he's also referencing the Trench narrative. I think that this is a really good example of him straddling narratives again, where, like, some of this is real world narrative, and some of it, like, No Chances, like, there are not actually, people in red robes coming for Tyler Joseph, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully not. But it's like he references those terrible house shoes that he loves so much.
Oh my gosh.
God, but I love the construction in No Chances, though, because like it's one of those sort of, in several forms of music, like there's a type of posturing that is part of the form. And he borrows heavily from hip hop. That's that's a thing that's a big part of hip hop. And so it's like, it's such a glorious juxtaposition of like, here's how much of a badass I am, and then also here are my terrible fuzzy slippers. But
That
you
is
know,
ass.
he's yeah. But he also like one of the cool things like about the lyrics that we see that kind of he started on and then didn't like as a writer. I love seeing like this is such a great example of having some images in mind and building around them, like the flamethrower, the juxtaposition of like having like an MMA stance, but also wearing like house shoes. It's one of those, and it's such like the sound of it, like the bass like drives, like it's such a badass sounding song. Like I like Tyler Joseph, please play this. Please play No Chances live and please play bass on it. I'm begging you. Like I want this more than life. But yeah, this is such a great room because like you can't get to and from Never Take It with any sort of ease. No Chances is right there being a badass. It's showing us a little bit about how he writes. It's just this is such a good room.
Oh, one
Hi.
thing that I left off that I wanted to
Uh-huh.
throw in there is there's something that uh, is not quite leveling with the audience in Never Take It, which is those vocals that are just loud enough that you're supposed to hear them but not understand them. Um,
Mm.
and that's
Yes.
telling you there's something not entirely above board about this message. It's not being completely honest with you, and I think it should be
Exactly.
dealt
Yeah.
with some wariness in that.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah, for
that's it.
sure. Yeah,
Mary
that's
and
where I
Katie?
am too.
Personally, like, Never Take It as a song, it's kind of tense to me. I don't know how to phrase that much better, but just like, yeah, as was kind of mentioned, like, pretty much no matter how you interpret this song, there's going to be someone who doesn't like it. It's the first, like, it's the first song that you could say is really, even in the slightest, like, political, um, which is a big change. And I've always kind of, again, yeah, as y'all said, I've always approached it kind of with some weariness, just out of like, I don't exactly know what point he's trying to make here. It's a lot of nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I loved hearing y'all's take on that, where it's like, yeah, I think this was probably purposeful. Because to me, yeah, it's frankly, he's kind of sitting the fence on this issue.
Which is weird
So,
because then why write a song? Like,
yeah, some people on Twitter have, with varying degrees of jokingness, referred to it as a centrist anthem.
LOL.
I wrote a very
Ooh.
long Reddit post about how I think it is intentionally superficial, and people are gonna read into it. Like I saw so many people the day the album came out going, "I'm glad he's finally taking a stand," and I wanted to be like, "Are you sure? Because on what?" Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I think it was
Like, it's very much,
Yeah.
it's got a lot of let's just get along energy. When
There's
it's
not
like,
not a lot
Yeah.
useful in that, but
Yeah, I
people
mean,
really glommed onto it like it was saying something that it didn't at all.
Hey, wait,
I
before we
think
keep going, Miri, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to take notes on this room. I agree with a lot of what you guys said. And the only thing I have to add is that I pulled out the box set, the Scaled and Icy box set, which has like pictures correlating to every single song. You know, the lyrics cards. And the picture they took for Never Take It is actually of Tyler and Josh back to back, kind of like what you said, Christian. Like it's backed into a corner and they're like back to back, like they're surrounded and have like nowhere to go. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that because I don't have the box set. I never would have seen that on my own ever. Like, also that's
Yeah.
I like talking about like the architecture of these rooms, and like that's very much a good point about like the song being in a corner, like being at right angles to each other, and being like Christian. I think earlier you described it as being like it's cramped in the room, and I was like, oh shit, so true. So
If you tripped in there, you'd get so fucked up. There's
Shit,
just
yes.
sharp everything everywhere. There's just sharp edges.
yeah.
that's a good point.
Man,
too.
this whole My whole thing about like I have this fear of like falling in hard spaces and
Oh.
like messing up my mouth, and you just activated
Oh
that
my
so
god.
hard.
Okay.
No.
You can't trip in
Oh
the imaginary room.
Ouch.
It's not real.
no, it's okay. Like I'm
What
good.
if-
There's a beagle here. Like there's a
Dude,
dog here that can comfort me. Like, but still,
that
like
totally,
wow.
that totally sounded like one of those memes where it's like, such and such thing isn't real, it can't hurt you, and then such and such thing, and
I
then
was
it's an
immediately
image. Like,
picturing that, yeah.
Yes.
yeah, lol. Lyrics from Can't Hurt You, it's not real. Lyrics from... Anyways, sorry.
I guess like one last point, because I again went on a tangent with Never Take It, but as far as like No Chances, pairing them up together for many reasons is interesting. But now looking again at like the crossed out lyrics on it,
They're very
they're very
conspicuous.
they're very similar to what they were, and it's kind of hard to read half of them, which that's a note for this entire place. Was it's interesting where you can read the lyrics versus where you can tell like there were lyrics but you have no clue what it's saying. Especially in like the spray paint.
Yeah.
But
I've stared so long at that. Ugh.
yeah.
Yeah.
But on this one, pairing it with Never Take It is interesting because the first line of the crossed out section of No Chances is flamethrower and then a switchblade, like a flip flop when you switch takes, is what it
Explain
looks
a lot.
like. Flamethrower and then a switchblade, like a flip flop. When
I have it written down.
when you
Yeah,
switch
that was when we
takes,
switched lanes,
I think it's when you switch
but it
lanes.
could be take.
Mm-hmm.
Could be
And then it
takes.
says, when you trip your
Yeah, lanes
your
looks
face
better.
scrapes grip tape. That's so hard to say. I'm glad you changed it for his own sake.
coming at you every single
Which
Wednesday.
Which way? Which way?
Oh, is it? Oh. I was like,
This is
what's
my
the
house.
Every
significance
single
of
Wednesday.
Wednesday here?
Sarah,
Wednesday, I'm gonna fuck
slow
you up.
down on fucking these bishops on Wednesday. My itinerary is full. Anyway. Sorry, what
Yeah.
were you saying, Katie?
I lost what I was saying.
Sorry.
I think it was. I
You were
think
saying
in
that
general,
the first line being crossed out.
yeah, and like with it, when I thought it was takes, it still kind of fits with it being lanes,
Mhm.
but like the idea, he's literally comparing either himself or someone else to a flip flop.
Mhm.
Like, whereas Never Take It, just yeah, that fence sitting idea versus No Chances, the first thing being about like
Oh yeah, they're very
Witching up.
different postures.
Can I make a joke with no substance whatsoever?
Please.
Yes, please.
When you said comparing himself to a flip flop, it totally reminded me of his tweet during Trench Era where he was like, on this album, I'm a lion and a something, and I
Oh,
got
yeah.
a pet cheetah in my basement, so stay with me now.
Yeah.
What if he tweeted like, on this album, I'm a flip flop?
I'm a flip flop,
Okay,
a house
anyways,
shoes, and a
it just
fuzzy
made
tote.
me laugh. Yeah, pretty much. So stay with me now. Anyways, sorry, you can keep going.
There's
On this album, I have numerous things you can wear. Oh, dang, that's actually a deeper concept than I was expecting.
God
I like-
damn, just stay with me now.
Try these concepts on physically.
There's definitely a tension between the guy
Huh.
who's describing himself as a fucking flamethrower versus the dude who says, I don't bother anyone.
Mm-hmm.
LOL, yeah.
That's
yeah.
it's pretty broad.
I like that people can take multitudes and can feel both of those things and still be the same person.
I mean,
Yeah.
That is very true.
And I think that's kind of central to the album too, is that he both seems like stuck somewhere and torn between two places still.
I mean,
like
he's definitely
used to
like
be.
the prisoner and the jail guard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, I
That's
think
a
he
really
makes
good way of putting it.
he makes very deliberate choices about which mindset he writes from. So in interviews, I feel like a lot of the times he'll say, I put myself in that feeling, in that mindset when I wrote that song. So it's not always like what he feels in that moment, maybe, but yeah.
That's a good point.
Really true. Like when he was talking about Choker, about going to a mindset that he's been in before. And that reminds me of what you said actually about like older ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
I certainly, in this album, I think you can really feel in some ways when certain things were written. Like he talked about writing The Outside. I think he was talking about that during, I don't know if I was thinking of festival season for myself, but that was a song from definitely before the pandemic. And then there's other stuff like in this song, Never Take It, where he says, Summer I Watched the Tube. That's in past tense. Maybe he wrote it while it was happening, but it's like, you can really feel, I think, the chronology of how... God, I just want to know when these songs were written so bad. I want to know stuff like Bandito being the first and last song finished. I love knowing that. But like, I think that's really true of like, you can really feel that in these different songs in certain spots. Not all of them, like Shy Away, I think he could have written whenever, but like, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying, I agree. I think that's a really good insight.
I think this album is gonna feel a lot like a time capsule, I think, you know,
Yeah.
in coming years, just because, and I know like I'm also on the Saturday is Deeper Than It Sounds Defense Force. Because the first time I heard that song, my whole initial response, and Lua can vouch because I DM'd her, is holy shit, this is what the pandemic sounds like.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's I think like, you know, Never Take It, especially like when we look back, like we're gonna say, yeah, this was written like right around like the BLM protests, and you know, as the pandemic was happening.
I mean, you can see
And you know,
in Jenna's BLM post, she uses the words "shy away," like in
Mhm.
September.
Did she actually?
Yeah.
Goddamn.
I would have
God
never
damn
even
it.
thought to go back and look at that. Now I need to after this.
I have absorbed all. I'm sorry. I just started walking around this building. I stopped paying attention, and my hand just did it. I don't know where.
You're fine.
We are.
Fine, yeah.
The body does things without you.
Yes, I did want to make this comment before I forget. This is just a moment of self-indulgence. Sorry, but I was thinking earlier today about like the initial confusion. Like, is this a chronological album? Is this like, you know, people are talking about listening to it backwards, and that didn't seem to quite fit. And it occurs to me that all of the things that happen in the album, I might have even said this already, and I'll feel like an idiot, seem like they're happening to different people across the same day. Like, we open the album with starting the day, and it's like you're panning across a city and seeing into different rooms, and then we get to the end of the day, and, you know, this is how people are sort of closing their days, deciding whether or not to live or die, but it seemed like very... I felt like I kind of got why Tyler said it wasn't necessarily linear, but it's very obvious that the last 3 songs go in order. And he said he wanted to start Good Day like something was coming awake, so that also that's you know, indicative of a beginning, and there's also a clear ending. So I think it's not necessarily linear in terms of like chronological story happening to the same person step by step, but it could be like a pan across kind of thing, in one day or one section of time. The end. That's all.
Holy shit, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So great.
That makes me happy.
That feels... I think that is such... Yeah, no, that is such a like good way... You know when we're having conversations and one of us will be like, wow, you just said a thing that I thought that I didn't realize I thought, but you articulated it and now I realize, like,
now
oh my gosh, that's perfect. Yeah, like when, like, yeah, like I just had that moment again, like with that, like that... Yeah, this album is sort of in a way like a series of like vignettes almost, or like like sketches of things, and you, okay, when we were gonna talk about Redecorate, I was gonna talk about that, which I can wait until we get there, but like of how it feels like the different papers. It's kind of like, you know, is it written all by one person many times? Is it written by many people having the same experience over and over? And in the song, within Redecorate, it is these little vignettes, these little snapshots of different people, and kind of applying that over the course of the whole album of like, here are these different experiences of like coping with things that don't work, of just like taking these snapshots of different people. Like that is such a good way of like holding this album in your mind. I love that.
Things don't make sense together. I mean, one guy's talking about
Yeah.
consulting his wife, the other guy's wife is dead. So like, you can't really, you know, make that jive. And they also have different personalities. You know, like the guy in No Chances is very different from the guy in Choker. They're having different days, even if they're having the same day.
Also, the way you just phrased that with panning across different rooms or something, just made me think how trash is kind of like a vehicle maybe for us to like. He flies around and basically in Shy Away he has that bird's eye perspective on that scene, and then he's in every other song
He's
too.
different in every or every iteration of him too. He's physically different every time.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about trash so bad, but we are saving that.
We're saving that.
We are putting a pin in that.
Okay.
Because
two
yeah. Go ahead.
kind of quick points while we're still in this room. Where someone brought up like time periods. Yeah, overall, yeah, I'd love to know when different ones were written. But in that same article that I mentioned earlier about like where the designers were talking, Chris Woltman also had a small part, and I believe it said that like they started working on the live stream very early.
Yeah.
Like they started on the working on the live stream in July of 2020.
Like literally days
Wait,
after.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Days after the ARG ended, they were just on to the next thing.
Yeah.
It was within the same.
So, like, it makes you think that while a lot of these songs sound like they probably may have come later, like he had a good idea of where he was going, definitely, if not most things done by July.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember there was an interview it was just like a press junket interview. It was just kind of in there, but there was an interview with Josh where he said that most, if not all of it, was written before lockdown started.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting. Yeah, because I think a lot of people consider this as like a lockdown album in some ways, or
yeah, they do, and they keep saying
yeah,
over
and people,
over.
yeah, and I know people sort of. It's one of those things the Click does where people have something wrong and then they just parrot each other until they forget that it never had any basis in reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because the thing is, some people have written articles that are like, this pandemic album dealing with the loneliness, and I'm fucking like, okay, but this is clearly stuff that he like deals with just in his life, and like it's nice timing. You know what I mean? Because like they've said, a lot of this was written ahead of time. Some of it I think probably was like, or certain lyrics or something was probably written during this time period because they said they were working on it and whatever. But yeah, they said that a lot of it was done. So when people interpret it as like about stuff that happened like in the middle of the pandemic, I'm like, he didn't have time to write it that fast.
What's interesting about that is, I think what's interesting is that there's conflict even in like the PR, because the press release for Scaled and Icy is like, this is a pandemic album, and like during the Christmas stream, you know, he and Mark are like talking about like, yeah, I need to, hey, don't you have an album to finish writing?
Oh, that's such bullshit.
You know,
that is
you know, and and so like I think that
that's a thing.
I think that we are getting mixed messages. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
He's
we get mixed messages from Mr. Pilots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't
so
know.
Mark is like that, TM.
You would have no reason to remember this, but I had posted on Archive Pilots, like, because we've been doing vessel transcripts, and I'm looking at these timelines, and it's like, you know, here's Josh Dunn on, like, December 1st, 20 whatever. It was right before, it was like literally 10 days before they went into the studio to start recording Blurry Face. And he says straight-faced to this reporter, yeah, we're working on it. We've got some ideas.
Yeah.
I remember that. I literally remember you posting
lying
it.
through his teeth. Like,
that is not technically a lie.
Finished. It was always, like, it is true, you're right. It's not technically a lie. They did have some ideas. They were working on it. But it's definitely not the message that was sent.
I hate that.
That's such an insane thing, and this is true in the recording industry, like once you're like on a major label, but also in like things like television, like you lie about the timeline because production takes so long and because release is so intentional.
But also,
and so
I think they lie about it for reasons that are to make me specifically angry.
Yeah, no, they are also specifically out to get Lua.
Okay.
Just like Mr. Pilots knows when I get paid. Like they're like, hey,
we're on a tangent.
We know you get paid on such and such a day. Like we know that this is your payday. we're gonna drop this thing, and it's like, ugh.
They've zeroed in. They know.
Okay. I love you guys, and we are moving to the next room now.
Okay. All right.
Hooray!
Also, my laptop is getting hot in this freaking car, and I'm gonna die. Anyways.
Wonderful.
Okay, what room are we in? I can't see. I have my brightness turned all the way down so my laptop
Good
doesn't
day.
die. Good day. Okay. Should I start again, or does anyone else feel like they want to start? Because I've started twice now.
You can go.
Do
I think
it.
we've
I
been
feel
letting
like-
you start because you have the
Okay.
notes, and that
Yeah,
kind
you
of
I
did
kicks
the
do.
all of us off.
I
Yeah.
did the homework. I am a tryhard. Okay. So, Good Day and the Outside. So, I find it interesting that Good Day is the only song where the lyrics are spray painted. I actually made a little chart for myself of how each of the lyrics are presented. That once we've gone through all of them, if we want to consider that we can do that. But Good Day is the only one that's spray painted, which is not necessarily the most permanent. Like, some of them are written, like, carved into the wall, and that feels pretty permanent and stuff. But in terms of this versus chalk or versus made out of bugs, I thought that was kind of interesting. I also really think it's interesting that this was done in pink. Lua, I know you're gonna have a ton of shit to say about that, but
I only have
for
one
me,
thought. You
kind
already
of
know
the
it.
way, yep, for me, kind of what pink seems to be about in some ways is like is the tidied up kind of commercialized version of all this stuff of like it's not red, it's it's pink, it's like things are not so bad, they're all cotton candy friendly and whatever, which makes a lot of sense for Good Day. I also think it's interesting how the lyrics like I mean, like Katie was saying, but like they look kind of like fucked up, and like the switchblade thing behind you if you turn around, like the the keep your sunny days like switchblade thing, which at least no spoil,
Sawblade.
yeah, sawblade, fucking whatever. Like it looks like worn and kind of or the lyrics have some drips. So the thing is, like, it looks friendly, but it also looks kind of scary and messed up and like decayed and like not and put together by somebody who was like trying to make it look nice. It's kind of the uncanny valley of lyric stuff in my opinion, as much of this album is, like as all the stuff with the Bishops was. So I thought the way they like manifested that for this song, manifested a lyrics room, was interesting and cool. Okay, wait, what was I was gonna say other stuff. I have other notes. This room has a lot of boxes cut out of the wall and things that are sticking out. It's sort of like confusing to look at the wall because you don't totally know what the wall or the floor or the ceiling really is exactly. The ceiling has skylights, which also kind of contribute to that effect of like all these different boxes of different things. There's a long hallway, but you can't go down it. And there's 2 staircases descending from the room, one of which you can't go down. So it seems like they're trying to give you this impression of there being a lot of ways in and out of this room, like it's sort of a crossroads, or more, in my opinion, less like a crossroads and more like a hub of like pathways. It's just sort of a meetup point for a lot of the things, not unlike the choker room. I don't have any thoughts of like what I think the metaphor is there. Some of these rooms I very much have thoughts. This one I'm kind of like, well, that's interesting. Other things, I don't know why the Outside and Good Day are sharing a room. I don't have any thoughts about that. Also, so I talked a little bit about Good Day, but to talk about the Outside, it's written in bugs. We're gonna go to Formidable and Mulberry Street probably next, I imagine. I don't really know. But so we'll talk about this more when we get there, I guess. But the title is written in bugs. The lyrics themselves are written in pen. And the bugs, again, we'll get there, but like the bugs seem to me to be sort of representative of like people. Nobody come for me, but like it does seem to be people, if not necessarily fans exactly, maybe fans of something, but just people who are consuming things, which I guess is a fan, but I don't think that they're trying to be like this, our fans are bugs or anything like that, but just in terms of people engaged in like media consumption. So I thought that was interesting for the Outside. And yeah, okay. Mostly this was me just describing the room. I'm a little less sure about meanings for all these things, but those are my thoughts. Thank you for listening.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
I guess I have some thoughts on this one that I could go ahead and jump off with.
Okay.
Go for
I
it.
don't have a lot to say
Ah,
at the moment about Good Day. But the outside, the way that that was done with bugs is so interesting to me. And like they're flies. It took
Yeah,
me I
they're
thought they were
nasty.
ants at first,
Mhm.
but
Ugh.
like it's like they're attracted to something that's dead. Something in here is dead
Yes.
Mhm.
by them
Oh, that
being
is so
flies.
interesting. I like the
Like-
idea of it being something that's dead, though.
That's the only situation generally where you'd see flies swarming something,
Mhm.
is if something is dead. So all of these flies being here and like it being tied with this song, this is one that like I've started picking up some stuff, like the fact that like, hey, this is probably symbolic of something being dead. I haven't quite had the time to like really dive down into that, but I guess that helps with our whole time limit here too, because I don't have too far to go with it. But like at the same time, it is kind of interesting with where he has talked about this song and what it's about. And as far, I remember I'm looking at the lyrics to make sure it's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, I believe this was the one where he was talking about basically him just looking and going, like, have I gotten old? Has my career moved on past, like, we're probably not in our peak anymore. And just, so I guess again, don't have too far to go with the whole flies and dead things. But I guess that was kind of interesting where it could be taken almost as like, is my career dying type thing. And this is a basically completely unrelated tangent, but I did realize it while listening to it in the car yesterday, where I just picked up the line, "You can pay the cover charge, I'm in the street," is amusing to me because it just the only people that pay cover charges at bars are under 21, effectively.
You think?
Not
Generally,
necessarily.
In my experience, it's dudes, but sometimes, all genders.
I think it
most
depends on the
places.
bar.
Wait, okay, I was reading the YouTube chat. What did you say? I'm really sorry.
Every time I've had to pay a cover charge, granted, I don't generally go to bars very much. If I'm at a bar, it's because it's a music bar. Every time I've had to pay a cover charge personally is because I was under 21. And that seems, at the very least, that seems more common in music related.
Got it.
Because that's the only times I've been in bars. So, which, I mean, it kind of fits with the song, too, as like a whole...
Yeah. That's not really his scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him
The other
saying,
folks not,
like, you kids can go have fun in there. I'm going to do my thing out here.
I have so many thoughts on that.
my other thought with
Miri,
regard to cover
before we-
charges is that the other folks that don't pay them are the artist performing.
Oh.
So
Mhm.
when I played in a band, I never had to pay a cover charge to show up for my gig.
Miri, do you have any thoughts?
I think this isn't really analytical at all, but I just thought it's interesting that you in Good Day you can really see the type of guy Tyler is in terms of always staying in control. Like that's something that he's always kind of striving for, and he even goes as far as like controlling the way he reacts to like something as tragic as like
Oh wow, that's a good point.
losing your family. So always thought that was pretty interesting how he assumes if that happened, he would like try to be in control still. And then also I still struggle to see why exactly these two songs are paired up like this. But again, like going back to the box set, they those two songs, their cards have images from the same outfits that they're wearing, like the same hairstyle and everything, and they're the only ones with that particular outfit, which is Josh is wearing a black and white striped long sleeve, and then Tyler is wearing a long sleeve button up kind of thing, cardigan, I guess, which is yellowish. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still like, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on why those two are paired up in this room.
I do.
Okay, I'm excited.
Unsurprisingly.
Unsurprisingly, Lua has thoughts.
I've never had an opinion in my life.
Mm-hmm.
False. Go for it.
I think these are paired up because these people are out of their minds. Like, the lyrics to The Outside, the guy, some of the crossed out lyrics are, what is it? I'm surrounded by robots with evil eyes. And it kind of echoes the way that, I mean, obviously I think The Outside is representative of Trench outside the city. And he kind of has this language that Clancy takes on the higher he gets on this freedom that he has, where he starts describing the citizens of Dima as, lifeless and without personality entirely, and just mindless obedience. These unrealistic ways of sort of hyperbolically describing these people that he is increasingly othering, as he sees himself in contrast to them. And this person is clearly fucking crazy. Like, not crazy, but he's representative of something that, like, he's a megalodon and he's, Megatron. He's something very old. He's something kind of mythical, but also at the same time exists in the modern world as well. But both of these things are being threatened by something. They're coming to an end. But they are both predatory. And one of their crossed out lines is, "In my dreams I see." That's kind of, to me, parallel with the crossed out line from Mulberry Street, which is "float down a road in my head." None of these things really exist. It's how, like, he's just...
Why do you say the person's crazy then?
Well, because he's not surrounded by robots with evil eyes. They're just people. Like, they're just...
Well, I mean, paranoid maybe, but insane?
Well, I mean, like, he's not a giant shark either.
Well,
yeah,
but
I don't
like,
mean,
it's a
like,
metaphor.
insane in terms of, like, he's mentally impaired. I mean, they're not experiencing something that entirely reflects reality. Like,
It does
they're
feel
seeing
very
that way.
fever dreamy.
Yes. It's not, like... Maybe I exaggerated a bit much there, but, like, there's a little bit of delusion in it, in the same way that Good Day has some delusion in it. And as far as the way Good Day is written, I don't know if I can get back there from standing here. I don't think I can, no.
Again.
That didn't help at all. I like the way that Good Day is written. It's in big writing, it's graffiti, it's very bright. Like, you're not... Let me click on this gosh darn box. You're not meant to miss it, There's... The person who's doing this, it's like, spray painting a public thing is kind of like this deviant behavior, and this person is not sorry about it. Like, they're just big as fuck, wrote this thing. And in the lyrics, he's also kind of hamming it up a little bit, like, broke the news on mom's vacation, oh, but you know me. That is something Tyler would never say. Like, oh, but you know me, Like, he's very much a you don't know me guy.
Yeah.
But this person is kind of, like, being sort of cheeky about their own, like, being a little deranged, but totally under control. And also, there's that phrase, plot terminating cliches, things like, It is what it is. You only live once. These phrases that are meant to put a stop to further examining something. I think that's what's happening here in, um, what is the line? Today's a good day. You never know when the next one will show. And it's one of those, like, kind of thought terminating ideas. Like, today is good, and you better stop thinking about it there because you don't know when the next one is going to be. So just value the good that you have right now, even if that good is very fucked up. And I just talked for a really long time and got really aggressive about it, and I will stop now.
As a fun aside, that line in Good Day is a line that during like serious pandemic while working in retail, that was lyric that I would just kind of sing to myself over and over again while I was doing mindless tasks.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I don't know what sort of commentary that makes, but it brought me some. It wasn't
Wait,
exactly
which line?
comfort. It was like I would just sing it under my breath.
Which line?
Um, Today's a good day. I never know when the next one will show. It'll show. So I'm missing my soul. I'm missing my soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, like comfort is not exactly the word that it brought me. It was more like everything is so fucked right now, and I am barely holding it together. Which, to kind of call back a little bit on Choker, it's like, all, seems like all I'm worth is what I'm able to withstand, which was another lyric that, boy, working retail in a pandemic, you sure feel that.
Oh
So,
man, that's rough.
oh man, I'm so glad. I'm so glad Choker catalyzed my desire to get out of that job. Thank you,
Nice.
Mr. Pilots, for
Nice.
keeping me not dead.
Yeah.
I'm also grateful for that. Okay, this is unrelated to either of the songs, but I have to say it because Miri is here. Like, oh my gosh, like, in terms of singing something to yourself, I don't know if anybody else has had the experience of singing "It'll Stop Any Day Now,"
Oh,
like
yeah.
yourself over and over, but
Oh
like that, it
man,
feels like such the same, like, kind of
know.
vibe. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Anyways,
goodness.
sorry. That was a side
Yeah,
comment,
I
but
have some room thoughts. If Miri, do you have room thoughts
yes,
though first?
room
Because
thoughts.
yeah, you should do first.
I don't know. Actually, I don't have any room thoughts. I'm very much with Paris that I still am very on the fence about what the architecture means and why it's like yeah, open in every direction.
Christian?
So yeah, the architecture in this room is very strange because I can't really interpret any sort of purpose behind the structures that Good Day is written on. Um like this is a part of the structure that just makes zero sense. Like whoever built this was either writing specifically to put these lyrics here or I don't even know what they were doing. The saw blade though has freaked me out ever since we first saw it in the lyric. Well, okay, not since we first saw it because we saw it on some merch first. But the lyric video, that motherfucker is sus.
It's creepy.
So
It's so
creepy.
creepy. Just this vacant
It's one
stare.
of oh, oh my
Yeah.
god,
Oh.
it wigs me out real hard and I don't know why.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's the whole space is weird to physically access. Um like the thing like placement in this room is weird. Um Good Day. I really love how Tyler has talked about it, especially in some of those first interviews. About like this is like gonna cope with loss by coping badly. And just imagining the world in which like loss of his family, loss of his friends, like the more I sit with that concept, like the more I just ache. Um, it is interesting to pair with the outside because I feel like I understand the outside just a little bit better. Um, I think it's cool that they used bugs to spell the title, just because there's bug sound effects in the song itself. Like when you open up, like it's the like that crawly sort of crinkly sort of sound, like that's an insect sound effect. Um, but I don't know, like the vibe I got from the song, I feel like has gotten backed up in interviews a little bit. Like this is like he's having to not address, but like this is Trench was a processing album, like Blurry Face blew up, like Where Am I Now? And then this is sort of, I feel like kind of continues like that processing. Okay, like so maybe I'm processing some of this and like the changes that have come about, I'm kind of now having to think about a little bit. And I think the outside talks I think the outside really speaks to that. Hey, I'm not in my 20s anymore. I've got, you know, depending on how we're reckoning albums, either 3 or 6, 3 or 5 albums behind me. Um, it's possible that like my critical success, maybe has peaked. I'm wanting to experiment with different things. I'm stuck in the house. Is our industry going to survive? And also like reckoning with like he is no longer necessarily a part of youth culture. He can't like hang out with fans anymore, like after shows, and like really kind of figuring out like, okay, well, how do I fit? Like, what does this mean? Um, and like reckoning with, here's where everything was, and then here are events that have just like absolutely put a lot of that into question. And I know that like there is some conflict there with like, is this a pandemic album? I think that we can argue that not necessarily, but I do think that the experience of coming out of Blurry Face and going through like Trench Cycle and some of the uncertainty there, because he talked about like Trench being their most important album. And from a production standpoint, it really is, because that's the first album that they had like 100% like in-house production. Like he recorded it in his home for the most part. Like, he produced with Paul Meany in like a partnership instead of like, here's the producer that, we work with are able to get. And so like this is, I think, in many ways, like I think the outside really speaks to a lot of that just transition as an artist as well, which is cool. Because I love people talking about their experiences. But yeah, like there's so many limitations on how he lives his life now, as well as so much privilege and opportunity, and I think it's hard to parse that. So yeah.
That was super cool and smart.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it.
Dang, thank you.
Does anyone have anything else in particular they want to say, or should we move to the next room?
Yes.
My brain
This
has
is
stopped
one of those-
working.
It could. This may be kind of a thing where it's like, don't really have the time. This isn't the setting to go too far into it. But a completely random note. I found Good Day interesting, as I've mentioned before, with like. I've done a lot of work with the older songs, like trying to pull together like symbolism and where it's from and what it could mean, and lining songs up together based on that sort of thing. A random thing I noticed is I'm pretty sure, and like much of the old symbolism, yeah, the most common symbolism in the songs that like I can pick up a source from is that it's consistent with biblical symbolism. This is the second time I've noticed in a song, though, a spot where, like, it's not biblical, but it definitely, he's using a phrase that sounds, that, like, I recognize from a hymn.
Which phrase
The
is it?
first.
I'ma sing my soul.
Mm,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Ooh.
Were you
The
the person that was
first-
talking about the song that is called something like that?
Is that How Great Thou Art?
Yeah.
Hmm.
How
Hi, I
great
grew up
thou
Southern
art.
Baptist. How are you?
The first song that did that off the top of my head that I ever noticed was Taxi Cab. Sometimes we will die and sometimes we will fly away. Fly away isn't necessarily a biblical thing, but it's definitely coming from a common hymn.
Hmm.
You know which one?
I'll fly away.
Oh, that's straightforward.
That one I don't think I know. Let me look this up.
Okay, I think we should probably move rooms though, because we're approaching the time that I set
Yeah, that's
for-
just a random note that's like, oh, that
Yeah,
was
no.
interesting.
Yeah, I love like hearing your thoughts on that. Like, I'm not gonna go on a tangent with this too much. I think we've had conversations before, so you're aware of this. But like, I was, raised in a religious family and stuff and whatever. But we have pretty different religious like backgrounds, I think, and so a lot of the time hearing like your sort of cultural context for this stuff is like super fascinating. So I love
Yeah.
when you share it.
Mhm.
Same, because I have
Oh, yeah.
no familiarity with it. I would never know these things.
Even just
Yeah.
hearing the difference between like mainline and evangelical takes was so interesting to me. Yeah, we've had this conversation.
We have, and it was so good. Okay, but let's go to the next room.
That's not what I wanted to do. I got this. I got this. Click the button. Click the fucking button. Click
You
the
can do
button,
anything if you
please.
put your mind to it.
Click the button. Yes, okay.
Okay, Mulberry Street.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna start because that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Okay, so Mulberry Street and Formidable. So I'll start with Mulberry Street. I will say before we start, like really getting into this one, that like full disclosure, like Lua and Christian and I, when we had a conversation like about the lyrics room kind of a while ago, we talked about this pretty extensively, and it was fascinating. The reason I'm saying this is because Lua and Christian, you both have amazing thoughts, and I want you to share them. But yeah, okay. So for Mulberry Street, I have it's written on paper. The lyrics are at the center of a circle of bugs created through negative space. So there is no circle of bugs. There's a circle of the absence of bugs, which I think is interesting. There's one at the center that allows you to see it clearly, but it's also sort of the focal point of the circle, not unlike a famous person at the center of other people's attention. And I have in my notes, let Lua talk about this. So that's there. You're in a large room, but in the Mulberry Street view, you're also in the ground part. So you're in the ground part of this massive hall, which when I was walking through the room, I naturally found myself looking upwards in awe at the like vaulted ceilings and the massive windows. So I was like looking upwards and seeing how huge this room was and being sort of shocked and surprised by that. Which it very much contrasts with the other rooms, which feel very claustrophobic. And that was interesting to me because the effect of walking into that room and being like, whoa, this thing is huge, is probably not unlike the effect of Tyler's kid in the big city moment in New York that he talked about when he was talking to Zane Lowe, and I think possibly somebody else as well. Where he said, yeah, it was a total, I got to New York and I'm like looking around and there's this massive city, and you can imagine all these buildings, all this being surrounded by all these unfamiliar people. I think the Mulberry Street part of the room feels very much that way, of looking up at this space and being surrounded by a bunch of people. It also shares a room with Formidable, which we can talk about as well. I don't know, do we want to talk about Mulberry Street and Formidable separately, or should I just talk about Formidable as well?
Might as well.
I think let's do them separately.
Okay.
So
Can I
yeah,
get back on
those
this?
are my thoughts. And
Okay,
then
so
I have
thoughts.
notes on Formidable as well, but I will wait. Okay. Next person want to talk? Anyone have thoughts on what I said or anything?
I'm trying to convince myself I've ever had a thought.
Well, does anyone
I've had
else want
so
to talk?
many.
Do you want to go, Christian, or do you want me to go?
Man, I would rock, paper, scissors, shoot for it, but we're on different parts of the country.
Just go for it.
Fuck it, I'll go. All right, so one of the things that I really like about Mulberry Street is that it talks, I think, a lot about their experience as a band, and also about their ethic with regard to the full range of human emotion, and the realities of having those. Um, so like we open up, you know, the concept is, keep your bliss, there's nothing wrong with this. I think at the beginning of the song specifically is talking about like we don't need to be happy all the time. Like, the things that we sing about like distress, depression, etc. Like those are a normal part of life. We want to experience that in addition to happiness, So keep your sunny days, leave us in the rain, like let us be who we are. But there's also the realities of being like associated with major label and being a performing act. So tie strings to our hands and feet to rain on your parade. They are a band that deals with heavy stuff. Some people like that's why they listen to them. Sometimes we listen to things that are depressing to feel happy. But also like that's the way that their act is contextualized in media, is that they're a band that deals with dark stuff. Um, their whole like workflow like doesn't look like bars. Um, keep your pills, save your breath. Like, we don't want to be, don't medicate us out of who we are. Um, we're moving sideways, like, we aren't taking like the expected path. Like they built their band in ways that aren't considered typical. Like their whole marketing strategy, early on with social media is different. The demands of their record company in terms of creative freedom, were pretty heavy. Like even the way that like they built their contract with regard to keeping rights to things is kind of unique. But as we get into the second verse, it's almost like songs of innocence versus songs of experience, which I have a degree in English, and this is my problem is that I talk about Robert Blake sometimes. Um, but it's so you've got a mirror to this, which is you don't once you get into a space where you start comparing yourself to others, or being compared to others and are maybe in the spotlight, you realize that happiness as projected by media and influencers is not necessarily realistic. The people that you see being perfect, are perfect because they have a lot of tools at their disposal, some of, sometimes which are misused. You see people who are maybe like highly medicated looking, not necessarily in a wholesome way, being perfect at you, and so you, as an individual, like understanding that, happiness as it is projected to you by media is not necessarily realistic, and getting involved in industry like means that you're going to have to confront that too. um and so some of the choices that you have to make, like at that point it's like, okay, like, well, who am I going to be, like, how am I going to keep and build my persona, how am I going to keep my brain, you know like as the sort of brain that we want to have. And so it's like confronting that, and also like understanding that how you like your level of happiness is up to you. But yeah, so I think it's just, this is really kind of an interesting picture of, this is like Mulberry Streets where they, got together with folks and like got ready to get signed. Um, and this is a reflection sort of that overall experience is like, and I think that it's really sort of encouraging, like that get out of our way is like, we're going to be the artists that we want to be, we're going to move the way we want. We're not going to move with the mass, even when it's convenient. Um, we're going to present ourselves the way we want to. And maybe we're going to choose not to be like that, the kind of perfection that is so often demanded by the media. We're going to be who we are and write the way that we do. And so I I like this about Mulberry Street a lot, and I think that it's interesting that like this one in the lyrics building, again, like this one, we're surrounded by bugs. We're surrounded by a teeming mass of things in the same way that we are on the outside. Like there's a real sort of, here we are, here's our core being and who we are and our experience and like where we physically are and so on, versus like it feels like we are surrounded by teeming masses of things that are alien and that we can't control. So hi, I have feelings about Mulberry Street.
I love that.
Cool.
Mulberry
And
And,
Oh,
and, now, I,
that's
and now that I'm done being
rocks.
wrong, now that I'm done being wrong at Lua can tell me how I'm wrong.
He can
No,
hear me
no.
thinking.
First, wait. First, Katie and Miri, because Lou will probably pop off. So
Alright.
I want to make sure you guys
Yeah.
get the chance
Yeah.
to talk.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. My first initial thought is that like visually it looks very much like something, how an explosion would push something outward,
Ooh.
like the
Oh yes.
like something happened there in the middle that like caused them to be spread out like that. And I think Lua also brought this up a while ago on Twitter that I also remember from learning the choreography that they have a move on the lyric "Move Out of Our Way" where Tyler is kind of pushing outward, and then the crew, the dancers, all like
They react as
in
if pushed.
motion. Yeah, like he's pushing them outward, and they're all moving like that. And apart from that, again this is a different type of paper again. I think this is the only song that's written on kind of like ripped from a notebook paper. I still don't have like a fully fleshed out idea on what the different papers mean, but yeah, again, it's like with the yellow tape, it's paper that hasn't been getting a lot of sun, I guess. This still looks pretty fresh.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also what Christian said, how it talks about the history of the band a lot. I think it's also pretty intentional that Formidable and Mulberry Street are paired up, because I think it's bullshit that Formidable is supposed to be about Jenna, but we can get to that.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about Mulberry Street more, or do we want to talk about Formidable as well? Katie,
wanna
did
talk
you have
more
thoughts?
I haven't said anything about Mulberry Street yet, but
Okay, you talk.
okay, I'm trimming this down because this is one of those songs. When we were talking about Joker earlier, this was the one that I said that, like, in terms, it's hard for me to cut it down because how I interpret it relies heavily on how I interpret Trench.
Just pop off, dude. Say it all.
You crush
and
us.
a lot of that, like, so yeah, in general, relying on that idea of Trench symbolizing like a spiritual journey type thing, figuring out who you are versus who you were told to be. And it kind of comes. I did a Twitter thread with someone where we were talking about this. I think it was Ori. But so get out of our way, we're moving sideways. To me, I kind of thought of like morph in a way. Like, you're moving sideways. You're moving. You're not going forwards or backwards, but you're moving. Like, you're not necessarily making any progress in the way you thought you would. You're going again. You're moving somewhere, you're just not progressing or regressing.
Like a lateral move.
Yeah. And so kind of, again, figuring out how to phrase this in a cohesive, shorter way. And then the verse, ain't no sunny skies till you finally realize everybody relies on synthetic highs. They find someone to prescribe. Saying that fast is a mouthful. But if I make this song kind of try to fit it into my original interpretation, kind of goes back with what I was saying about Choker too, where there are points when it's easier to go, I can't handle this at the moment. I'm gonna let someone else tell me what's right for a little bit while I sit here and catch my breath type thing. And again, the lines, I think this started out where I was talking about the Twitter thread out of a discussion about the keep your pills line, because a lot of people kind of look at that interestingly in like, what is he trying to say there? I know a lot of people have like questioned, is that supposed to be like against medication? Which I don't think it's necessarily. I can see how it could be about like what like medication, how people are thinking about without it necessarily being anti-medication, just a kind of cynical view of it. Kind of going along the lines of, I think, what Christian was saying. But there's also like the possibility of like, he references in multiple songs the idea of like getting high, escapism, like illicit recreational type stuff. So there are routes that could be about escapism through that. I went on a weird tangent with Ori, where I was trying to find like every possible interpretation that I could come up with type thing. And a random one I came up with, I started thinking about like Matrix and the whole red pill, blue pill thing. I have not watched Matrix in a long time, so there may actually be an answer to this question, but I don't remember it. Like the idea, what if you neither? You don't make the choice. You're just kind of there. So a lot of where I was thinking with Mulberry Street was kind of that idea that you're kind of running in place type thing. Kind of stuck. Kind of, yeah. You feel like you're moving, not much is happening. There's some interesting stuff that could be said about the save your breath thing, because, like, breath is one of the most consistent, like, symbols that has, like, religious meaning and carries throughout their entire discography. The way he uses it is very consistent.
Wait, I'm curious to hear what you think of it in this context.
That is complicated.
Okay, I can ask you later.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Again, just trying to figure out how to run
Yeah,
through
no,
that
yeah. It's cool.
quickly. And then kind of like with synthetic highs, I don't remember who this conversation was with. It may have been with Ednine a long time ago. I've probably had it with multiple people at this point, but the contrast within Trench between sunlight and the artificial fluorescent lights, and so the synthetic highs kind of makes me think of that, like something good but it's fake. Yeah. And I guess the last thing was like, I remember before the song came out, I saw a handful of people concerned about the direction the song was going to go. Because the first thought is like Mulberry Street referencing the Dr. Seuss book.
Oh gosh, yes.
And like how it was not canceled. The company decided to pull it and everyone said it was canceled. No, that's not how that worked.
Like the Seuss estate, even, yeah.
Yeah, it was a decision all on their own. But yeah, that's why people were concerned. I still think it's referencing the book, but what the book is actually about. Because I think he mentioned at some point that like it kind of came to him through the idea, like he mentioned at some point coming up with song ideas while like reading books to Rosie, and I think this is the song he was referring to. Because a Dr. Seuss book would make sense to be reading to her as a bedtime story, but like the book itself, it's been a little while, so don't fully remember it. But like it's this kid watching this very mundane scene happen on Mulberry Street. And one of the main reasons I think it's definitely referencing the song is because Mulberry Street and like Bliss Street is also brought up. So keep your bliss, whatever. It's like that tied in here sounds kind of direct. But it's like this kid looking at this pretty mundane scene that's happening of just like, I think it's a horse and buggy or something, or some sort of cart going down the street, and he comes up in his head with this really fantastical story, creating like daydreaming type thing. So I think, again, interesting.
Yeah.
I can take forever. This is my soapbox song out of the album. This and Redecorate. So yeah, I'll let y'all move on.
That's cool.
Well, do we want to talk about Formidable, or does anyone have something in particular to say about
I think Lua hasn't had a chance to talk about Mulberry Street yet.
I think Ed needs like kind of wary of that, like before she gets
Oh.
into it. I don't
Listen,
know.
I believe we've all sworn a solemn pact not to, not be friends after this.
I don't know, whatever you guys want to do. If you want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, if you have something you want to add. Because you haven't had the chance to talk, I think.
Well, I do have opinions on Mulberry Street, shockingly.
Yeah, go for it.
I think this song is, to me, this whole album is very, very narrative, like rooted in narrative, rooted in the message. So that's what I tend to see. I do think that keep your pill, save your breath is intentionally giving the impression of maybe being anti-medication, because he's saying, keep your sunny days, leave us in the rain. And to me that very much echoes, the world around us is burning but we're so cold, like leave us in the rain. Like we are counter your culture. Culture is hard to say. I think he's defining himself by being anti whatever those people are, the ones who are on the sidewalk. Even if it's to the point of, denying medication, but having other sorts of highs. Because I think what this song says to me, it's describing these mutually antagonistic groups of people, sidewalk versus street, that feel as though the other one's making them, like, or at least the speaker here is like saying, why do you make us be antagonistic to you? Anyway, get out of our way, we're in charge here, we're the ones moving and shaking this whole, Mulberry Street is ours. And I think that the visual that's provided here, the thing that I was talking about, Christian and Ebony on the last call we had, was, come on, window. Let me see if I can bring this up. Nope, that wasn't it. Lyrigram? Lyrigram. No? What am I doing wrong? That's what I'm doing wrong. Okay, 1 second. Add existing. Image. Smaller. Almost there. Okay. So, the imagery that's provided, we have this, like, to me this is similar. The circle that surrounds the, this, like, doctrine that these people are all crowding around. And that's like the seat of power, And that would be, what screen can you guys actually see? This one.
Yeah, I see Formidable.
Okay. I'm circling an imaginary map on my browser so that you can see it on the screen.
No, I can see it.
But we have this, like, this doctrine, this seat of power in the middle of this circle that's shaped similar to Dima, and in the map itself is this square with these buildings. This is also the seat of power. This doctrine can be the same thing as that symbol of power, industry, whatever you want to call it. And in the map of Dima, the people, the residential areas are arrayed around, you could view it as a panopticon, this central tower, or the seat of power in their society or whatever, but it's not a realistic city. Like, there's nothing, you couldn't have a city that's just residential in a circle and then these fucking pipes. That's not a real thing. It's like, and I described it as, sort of a snow globe version of a city. Like it's a representation of it. The main parts of it, that being the necropolis of suicides, that more inner circle of residents, and the central thing, which is power. And I think that that's reflected in this imagery. And the power here is doctrine. And the people that are closer to the center are more intense about it. But nobody really lives up to it. Nobody really lives that. Maybe you have one guy. Maybe you have one charismatic leader who gives life to this, to all these people. And then maybe where Tyler's coming from is more over here. This is like, we're all over here, but Tyler's way out here. And that's basically what I think. Yep, I'll put the map away.
Okay, do we want to talk formidable? Because I feel like we sort of started talking. Anyways, we're looking at it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think we should, I'm gonna try to make sure that we do more time. Like, because like I'm worried about how long this is going.
I mean, we can always pick it up another time. We've done this for like 2.5 hours now.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we can like talk about everything. I'm just like thinking about, you know. But okay. Notes I have for formidable. Formidable is absolutely massive. It's, I think, the largest of all of them. Shiaway's pretty big too, but this one I think is the largest. Which makes sense if you're writing a song about something that is huge and kind of overwhelming. It makes sense for it to be the largest set of lyrics. Also, it's interesting to me that you have to be on the ceiling to see the entire thing. In terms of like metaphors and stuff. It's something that's so large that you can't actually consider the whole song, the whole lyrics, the whole formidable thing, unless you're on the ceiling. Like, you have to put some distance between yourself and the thing you're looking at to be able to look at it at all. Which I think is interesting if we're considering formidable as being about the band, or the band's role in his life, or about the clique, or about any of these things, of that feeling of it being large and of needing that distance. Possibly. Anyways, also the lyrics are made out of bugs. So if we're talking about bugs as being like people, it's interesting that this is the only song where the lyrics are actually formed from bugs. So for Mulberry Street, you've got a circle of bugs around it. The outside, the title is made out of flies, not these cockroaches. But for this one, it's actually written with bugs. This was one of the most striking rooms to me, this and Redecorate. In part because I like imagining the creation of this room. Like, I like picturing the person who's taking the time to write these lyrics out. You can kind of see trails, if you look closely, from the circle of bugs where Mulberry Street is over to where the verses are. So it's like the person kind of like shuffled them around to like over to where they're gonna do stuff, and then at the edges there isn't that kind of trail. It's like the person had to pick them up and carry them out to the outsides and then arrange the bugs in these nice little lines. So like picturing somebody doing that is such an image to me, because I feel like you can really see the creation of it in the room. Like that aspect of it is very present, of the making of the things, and also the idea of somebody taking the time to have the foresight of like, here's how I'm going to do this thing, and sort of painstakingly arranging all these gross things into these lyrics, or even the Mulberry Street, the rings of arranging them into something beautiful. Like, I really, I feel like it's sort of this unpleasant experience, you know, but almost like a, something that you wouldn't do unless you were like passionate about having this thing like exist. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, really picturing like somebody walking around this room and arranging it in that way is the reason I like this room so much. So if any of you guys have thoughts about how you imagine this room or the creation of this room or whatever, I would love to hear that as well, because I find it really interesting. That's all my thoughts.
Something I found really interesting about this room too, as far as like how it's set up and its construction, is that my first thought when you're at the Mulberry Street page and looking out, it, for the longest time, it never fully occurred to me that those were bugs. At first. Granted, yeah, there's that one cockroach sitting there that kind of clues you in. But my first thought is that while you're standing there on the page looking out into the room, it looked like water. Like ripples on water. And you're just standing in a kind of a clear spot. Or a still spot. And then when you go up onto the ceiling, you zoom out, and what I thought was water, oh, it's actually bugs. So I guess, yeah, there's definitely some symbolism there that could be dug into, in terms of, oh, it looked like water. Nope, it's bugs. It's death. If we go
Even
with,
if sorry, go ahead.
if we go with what I was saying earlier about the outside, where it's like, oh, a whole bunch of bugs, like, this could mean something died or it's symbolic of death or whatever. There's a bunch of ways you can approach the whole bug flies thing. Yeah, that was the main point I was thinking of.
Yeah, I really like your point about the ripples, because even if it's like, oh, it's not water, like the ripples are still very much there. And the idea of like having like a ripple effect or like stuff radiating out from you or affecting something in that way, like that's still there. So it's a good point.
Yeah, Anna pointed out in the chat that it's almost like concentric circles, like we see in the promo materials for the live stream, which is interesting.
Like stuff. Smart
Yeah.
Anna is smart.
Yeah.
Anna is smart. We love Anna.
Anna is very smart.
Also, Annie, like it had never really occurred to me that someone is spelling these things out with bugs. For me, because I consume a lot of like horror and like SFF genre fiction, and so my initial response to this is the bugs are spelling this out on their own.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, no, it's creepy as hell.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, I've ruined everything for everyone.
Yeah.
You can't bring me anywhere. Happy Saturday.
Yeah. Does anybody else have thoughts about that or about? Oh, sorry, Miri, were you gonna talk?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just think it's interesting that if we look at the lyric changes, I'm looking at the one from Twitter user FPE_art, and how he changed the lyrics. Fast forward 13 years now, which was originally just fast forward several years now, I think, if that's what we're seeing as well. I think it's kind of hard to read, but yeah, so I think
I couldn't even spot that over there.
Oh no, that just says second verse, I thought.
I couldn't, that corner of the room is so dark, I didn't notice the lyrics down there at first.
So yeah, I think those, yeah, so it says several above that, and then he put 13 years later. But yeah, that's the biggest clue for me, that it's about the band and possibly the clique, like the fans. And I also, sorry to keep going back to the box set, but I'm just like, I spread out the pictures for just reference, and the picture for the Formidable lyrics card is the one where they're kind of sitting on lawn chairs, and then it's the only picture where you can kind of see behind the scenes, so it's very zoomed out and you can see kind of things around the equipment from the photo shooting. So I just thought of that when Paris, when you said that you kind of have to zoom out to see the whole thing actually, and like put some distance between you and the ground of the room to actually see the whole thing. Yeah, I think that's all I wrote down for that one.
Does anyone else have anything else they want to say? I feel like we all are probably pretty much on the same page about Formidable and don't
I
need
think it's
to
really interesting.
hash it out.
that,
But yeah.
I think it's interesting, like how like the fight over what Formidable is about and how the mixed messages about what Formidable is about are really interesting, because the lyrics video looks a lot like it is about Josh or the band, and then the lyrically, like it feels a lot like it's about the clique. And then there was that interview that kind of flew by that was translated from English into French in the act of creating the article, and then out of French, not necessarily well, to Twitter. That
Yeah.
like the how can this possibly be about Jenna, shouting, sort of came as a result. So I like that there's tension there about like what Formidable is about, but I don't think I'm going to make any pronouncements about it because that's not my job.
Declared
I
it
do think
my
it's
job.
yeah, no. I do like playing drums to it a lot. Like
Nice.
I like Formidable a lot.
It's so good. I feel like it's gonna be
Yeah.
so weird seeing it live. If they play it
Oh my
live,
goodness.
which I'm hoping they do. We're all gonna be like,
It's like, who are you
Anyways,
singing
okay.
to, Tyler?
Yeah!
We
oh,
demand
God.
we demand an answer, Mr. Pilots, please.
Hello! Okay, let's go to the next room though then. In IMO. I think we can do that. Where are we going?
There's a beagle making sounds. Please ignore him. He wants me to take him outside.
We haven't done
Okay.
Shy Way.
Oh. Okay.
We wanna do redecorate?
I mean, you're in charge here.
Am I? Let's
You
do
are
Shy Way.
now.
Lua,
I'm trying to
you
find it.
can do it. Come on, Lua, you can do it. Pave the way, push back and do it.
Where the shit is it?
Go back to the Mulberry Street one.
I thought I
And then it's gonna be the one on the left.
This juxtaposition of Lua
Yeah,
and
there you are.
Bezos is just absolutely destroying me, you should know.
Thank you. Okay, cool. Shy Way. So this room is a massive hallway with an open ceiling. There's kind of a lot going on with this ceiling. Obviously, the word ceiling is in the song. Manifest a ceiling when you shy away. So the question of is there a ceiling or not is part of the lyrics and also part of the room. If you look out through the top, you see that there is an open space out there. You can get out. Can you? Question mark. It's very spiky. The idea of getting out of the room, it's very threatening to look upward. Also, the lyrics are written on the walls of this long hallway in such a way that it encourages you to look upward and to notice the fact that there is a very spiky ceiling. The room is very much in between two places. You can look upward and you're at the bottom. Both Trench and Dima have described as being at the bottom of something, but this is not actually at the bottom. There's sort of a way out that's upward, and there's also a way out that's downward. I think it's interesting if you go down, it takes you to the outside. Don't go down. Don't actually click on them, just stay here. But if you go down, it takes you to the outside, and if you go up, it takes you to Good Day, which are actually in the same room. So whichever way you go, you actually end up in the same room, which is interesting to me. But yeah, this is very, very much a hallway in between an upper and a lower area, which I think is fitting for the content of this song, which we could talk about, but focusing on the architecture here, it is the most Trench kind of room in that sense, in terms of being in between two places, and I think lyrically that makes sense for a song that is most about creating something, or about there's the lyric that was crossed out, lean into the darkness. That's definitely not what you're doing on the rest of Scale Than I See. You're leaning away from the darkness. So I think this is the closest to being an awake song, quote unquote. Lua thinks that it's intentionally ambiguous, which I'm sure she will say, and fair enough, but I think I just think that that's interesting. Also, the lyrics being carved into the wall going upward, again, I like to think about a person creating this. I like to think about Tyler sort of being trapped in this building for a long time. having nothing to do, wandering around and creating these things in this space that is sort of blank and hostile as a way to cope with being trapped inside of it. Like that's kind of how I picture this. And I like to look at this and see the fact that to carve all that stuff on the walls, he would have had to have been going up toward the ceiling, like to get all up that high. There's a question of, if you tried to get out that way, like one, it's a sheer wall, it seems impossible, and then the top is very spiky, but somebody very much did like try to get up there. Like you went pretty far up the wall. And yeah, those are my thoughts about Shy Away.
I think this
Anyone?
room is really interesting. And to the extent that like it really, like, of all the rooms in the lyric room, other than maybe Redecorate, this is the one that looks the most like it feels to me. Like there's a frenetic sort of energy in the creation of this space. The ceiling, like that is not a thing you want to manifest. That is definitely going to kill your creativity, and your body, and lots of things about you. But like the idea of like as a creative person, like climbing the walls, like sometimes when you've got your ideas, or you want to make a thing, like climbing the walls is like absolutely a feeling that goes along with that. They made a lot of Tyler made a lot of changes to the lyrics too, which is interesting to me. But like Shy Away, like the first time I heard Shy Away, it took me some time to kind of like understand like what was happening. Like I was really distressed by the, boy, you better not be there. Like I was like, holy shit, like what is happening here? Um, but the interviews like early on about like how this was, he's talking to Jay about, how to actually make your stuff, like how to actually write songs. I think it's really interesting that this song is on that album, and then Jay is opening up for some of the dates on the tour. Um, like the level of accountability to which you are holding your brother in this case, like, hi, I helped, like I gave you this tutorial, go do the thing. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to put you in front of like several thousand people. um, like if that's not the feeling of that ceiling, I don't know what is. So this room is scary. You want to go through it fast if you're me. But also like I think it really looks a lot like creative process in some ways. So that's really interesting to me.
Okay, is no one talking or am I like frozen?
Yeah.
No, it
Yeah,
is
you're
very
just
quiet.
Okay, cool. I was just making sure. I mean, if
Um,
nobody has anything they want to say, we can move on, but... Oh, Miri, do you?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, because no one was talking, that I just also don't have very many thoughts on this. It's just the main thing that stands out to me is yeah, as he progresses with the song, he's like climbing up the walls, getting out, and obviously the ceiling reference. But yeah, beyond that, I don't think I have much more to say about that.
Throw in like Anna in the chat. Anna Alco on Twitter, my friend, says, aren't those blades the ceiling? It's like one of those rooms where the ceiling might start falling every time. I just want to say that so that it's like we all see that. I love that idea. Like
Yeah,
that you don't even, like Christian was saying, that it's like dangerous, like that you want to move through this space quickly. Like the idea that the ceiling might start falling is so true. Like you feel very like, oh, I'm like kind of in this narrow space, and if they start falling on me, then I'm dead. Like I love that. It's, I don't know.
Yeah, that's great.
I vibe with that. Yeah. Okay, well, do we want to go to the next room?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we want to do redecorate?
Mhm.
Actually, can we save redecorate for last? Can we do Bounce Man first? Because I just like redecorate so much.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Are we in Bounce Man?
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard for me to see. I have my brightness turned down.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll say things. So this is only accessible from the Good Day outside room. the most prominent feature of this room is... Okay, we were talking about this before the call started, but... So, the most prominent feature of this room is that you kind of start maybe looking at the top where there's sunlight streaming in through this exit that's full of light, but it's this tiny hole that you can't actually access, and so, you might end up in this room and be like, where's the light coming from? And look up. And then the thing is, to consider the lyrics, they're read in a spiral from the top, going around, circling, down, 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 like on the walls of this tiny, like trapped claustrophobic little bird cage cylinder thing, and you spiral down. Oh my god, they're being loud. And you sort of spiral down until you hit the bottom of the room. And then there you are looking at your way out, which is just like you have to just jump and drop through the bottom of the room. You can't see what you're going to do on the other side. Also, you can't get back to this room. The only way out is to go through that particular thing. So once you step into that, you don't really know where you're going. You also can't go back. So you're leaving behind this room. Also, don't click on it, obviously, but if you jump down that hole, it takes you right back to the choker statue. So jumping through there doesn't actually take you anywhere new. It literally takes you back to the beginning. And if we're talking about things being cyclical, like, oh my gosh, like you just spiral down and so you're like, I have no choice but to like go, and then you step through it and you're right back at the beginning. So I think in terms of architecture of the room, like that kind of metaphor, this one is like really strong. So props to whoever designed it. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Anybody else have thoughts?
The designer in question, I believe is Jason Zada, who's the guy who did the ARG,
Oh
for
wait, but
Level of
did he
Concern.
design this?
I don't know if he did. Well, I know that he had a major hand in the production. I think he designed it. But yeah,
I
he was at least heavily involved, I thought.
He
I
made some
think
commentary to that
Jason.
effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think Jason was more involved with the like live part and directing that.
Mhm.
Whereas everything I found, it sounds like designing like the website stuff fell between the Lily team, which was the company that put on the website.
This in particular, though, I think is separate because he made some like explicit reference to like the number of rooms designed and how they were designed, as though
Yeah,
he was
he
involved.
probably had a hand in it too. And from looking at like Brandon Reich's website, the Attention Division site, he does reference like the website and stuff. So I don't know how much like input Brandon would have had to. Probably a decent amount.
Definitely a decent amount, I guess, yeah. I don't know, like the whole like Mr. Pilot's industrial complex, like the visuals, like Brandon's got a big hand in like the merch and visuals, and Mark's got a big hand in like overall creative development. So like I cannot fathom a world in which neither of them was deeply involved in this, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. It's probably a thing that a lot of people had their hands in it. The only
Hmm.
thing granted, I don't remember what Jason said about it, but the article I linked to you guys earlier, where the Lily team, their creative people were talking about it. That's
Yeah.
most of what I've seen as far as people who've created it.
It says it's a portal. When you click on it, you're in the choker room, but if you look up when you're in that room, there's no circle window there. Which is very true. I think like in some of these rooms the connections like don't really totally make sense. Which is one thing that I was saying with like immersion earlier. Like for example, when you go up in the formidable room, it's one of the few times when you're not just a person walking around, and I don't know, I think that's a really a good point of like sometimes these connections don't, it's not clear like how these things are, there's like a lack of continuity. Anyway, just a thing, just a thought, just reading the chat.
Who has positive feelings about me going on a brief tear about gaming and this lyrics room experience? Because this feels like a really good opportunity to talk about like respawning.
I think that's a really interesting point.
That is
Yeah.
really
Okay.
interesting. Do we want to do that now, or do we want to do that after we decorate? Or decorate's the only one? Because we could finish the rooms and then just talk about like general impressions, or we could talk about it now if it feels like a good segue. I don't know, just thinking.
It won't be a very long tear if that's any help. I can keep it to less than 3 minutes.
Go on your tear, I think, is my opinion.
Okay. So timer start. Okay. So so one of the things like about this whole space is like if anyone has ever played a game called Portal,
Yes!
Yes.
yeah, so
Shouldn't
one of
yell.
the big parts. Oh my goodness. Okay, so one of the big parts of one of the big like lore bits in the Portal sort of continuity is that there is I think it's Doug Ratman, who is a schizophrenic worker at Aperture, who is also one of the only people who kind of sees through what the GLaDOS AI, which is their big project, who turns out to be kind of murderous and terrifying. He's one of the few people who's like, listen, I have some pretty big reservations about this. And when GLaDOS poisons the whole complex with neurotoxin on Bring Your Daughter to Work Day, like his fears are realized. But he's one of the few survivors, at least for a while. And once you get behind the walls in the structure, you see all of his notes, and some of them are extremely disjointed. But a lot of them are also really spot on about like what happened, what's happening, what GLaDOS is about. His scrawls, if you've ever seen the cake is a lie meme, like that's where that comes from. And so kind of looking at like once you get into Bounce Man, like lyrically the song is it's one of those sort of like it's almost like kind of like a fun, like I don't want to say like straightforward rock song of like another era, but it's a little bizarre. But like the whole concept is that you're this is someone who is like, life is totally destroyed, let me give you $10,000 and a gun so you can flee to Mexico, where they won't extradite you for anything that has a death penalty. um and once you get into this room, like the only way out, like this is like some sort of cistern or oubliette, and the only way out is down that hole that like you can't see the bottom. And so like to some extent, like the only like the way this room looks, like the only way out is death. And in video games, when you die, you respawn at your start point. And so it's hard not to. Yeah. So like welcome to like the absolute terror of the lyric space, is that in order to escape it, all you can do is die.
Oh
To
my
get
god,
to
I
the
love
beginning
that
again.
interpretation. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I'm excited.
But yeah, I actually managed to keep this under 2.5 minutes. But that's where I am on this space, because it's like it's you can see like that there's gamer influence in this. Like we know Zada plays games, Tyler plays games, and so you can like, again, like going back to like Myst and Seventh Guest and games like that were Explorer games, like in the late 90s and early 2000s. But also like I feel like there's influences from games like Portal, where you have like secret spaces and kind of weird like secret messages. And given the click's propensity for like looking for secret messages in everything, including like the changed lyrics, it all kind of coalesces into this really amazing vibe for me.
Did we talk about Ratman before?
I think we maybe have in a chat, but not not in this.
I definitely, like, when I was first going through this, like when they first released it, that was one of my first thoughts, was like, oh my gosh, this totally feels like Ratman from Portal, like of walking around and seeing all the scrawlings on the wall and like things being a little like messed up looking, and like
Yeah. And even
certain
like
spaces where you
the
feel like you're not supposed to be. Yeah, like it really
yeah,
has that vibe. I would not be
the
shocked
whole
if they like
navigation.
saw influence from that. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like you physically like could not, like as a person, even like rocking like hardcore parkour, could not necessarily traverse this space as it's constructed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if that was like part of the inspiration to this, because we know they've drawn inspiration from games before, because that interview with Andrew Donahoe, where he talks about how the idea for like the Dema.org website came out of the I Love Bees ARG, which was a promotional ARG for Halo 2, I believe. So like they've drawn inspiration from games and game promotions before.
Yeah. The visual for the judge,
Yes.
like the
Yeah.
tour visual with like Josh's giant head.
Hmm.
If I remember right, it was like Tyler was like, "Hey, here's a specific villain from Star Fox. Let's go with that."
Yeah.
Which,
That was
yeah.
Yeah,
Chris Sherman
I can
replied to the AP account with that, yeah.
Hmm.
picture what the villain is. I can't remember its name though.
I'm gonna look
I
this
don't
up
remember
because
either.
Google is my friend. Thank you, Dr. Google.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like
oh my gosh.
I remember it's mechanical inside, but it's got like this monkey head on the outside. I cannot remember what its name was.
Something I just realized because Christian brought up gaming is also that obviously Donkey Kong was pretty big for Tyler always, but
Hmm.
so apparently in the original Donkey Kong, when Mario appears, his name's Jumpman, and Jay actually wrote a song called Jumpman, which is how I found out about that. But yeah, Jumpman and Bounceman are kind of like seem to be kind of related. And I don't know, yeah, the whole like going through a tube and then respawning and stuff seems very Mario as well.
I really like that
Is it
idea about like you die and respawn, like that's so cool.
is it Andros is the Star Fox villain that we're thinking about?
I think so.
Okay, it's well, that Andros I think is the giant monkey, but like giant Horatio head. Sorry, I never played Star Fox, so I have failed at video game knowledge.
I can show later, but there's a specific
Lewis
battle
says
with
yes,
it
Andros.
where like its jaw unhinges like that. So
Oh my goodness. Josh Dunn has a flipped top head. Your new Twitter handle is.
Apparently Josh tweeted. Hi Josh.
Oh,
Gonna hit the
Yes,
top
right.
show tonight.
Yeah,
Me
but
too, buddy. Thank you, Miri. Miri, fuck.
It's alright.
Anyways.
Glad he's going to the show. Like, I know he's really missed seeing 21 Pilots play.
Yeah.
I know. Biggest top stand. Okay. You wanna do redecorate?
Yes.
Sure.
Redecorate. This room. This is the room that I legit sometimes will just go like hang out in and stare at because it's very much a vibe. I feel being in this room, I kind of feel like it's meant to be. Wait, where are my notes? Oh yeah. I really think that the room is meant to be inaccessible. The only way to get to it is from Mulberry Street. There's a couple ways out of it. There's 3 ways out of it. But it feels very much to me like a hideout in an attic that's hidden away from anything else. If we're talking about Ratman, this really feels very Ratman, little hidden space. Like, even though we don't have signs that there was anybody other than our maybe our main character or whatever, like, there aren't any signs of, like, the bishops being around or anything like that, any kind of distress of that source. But nonetheless, I feel like if I were to want to get away from the rest of the building and spend some time alone, even though I'm alone everywhere else, this is the kind of place that I feel like I would go to do that. The room is cylindrical, which makes it sort of reminiscent of Bounce Man, which is the other place that is most literally talking about escape, but it feels less claustrophobic because it's bigger, it has a higher ceiling. It's got 3 ways out. Down goes to Bounce Man, from which you can only go back to the start. The upper right hole goes to the Never Take It Close-Up, which I think is the only way to get to the Never Take It Close-Up.
Yeah.
And then the middle left hole in the wall, goes to Shy Away. Obviously, the most striking thing about this room is that the papers are put up over and over and over again. Miri's gonna have some stuff to say about that, I know, but from the very beginning, I found this image really powerful. Like I said, this and like the formidable Mulberry Street room are the 2 most striking rooms to me. Personally, when I'm looking at this, first of all, like, the papers have different levels of weathering, so it's kind of like it looks like this has been something that's been put up over time, and different things have been here for different amounts of time. And it looks, to me, again, I like to imagine how these rooms were created. Like, either one person put these words up over and over again over an extended period of time, or that many people have been in here having exactly the same experience and have, like, sort of left their same, like, token of that experience up here in this room. Maybe multiple people have done it multiple times, but, sort of as is discussed in the lyrics of the song, of seeing different people go through the same sort of struggle in different ways. So whether you picture it as being one person or being many people, regardless, this is like a place that is like hosts this I don't know, crisis, I guess. And personally for me, when I'm looking at this room, I feel like I'm looking at something that's halfway between like a desperate struggle, if not to fight this pain that this person or people is experiencing, to at least express it, and a memorial, which is not unlike what the song Redecorate feels like to me. Like somehow both a struggle to express something and like leaving something behind and knowing that this is what you're leaving behind. And like a memorial. And so that you put those things together, and this room to me is a really powerful image and really well done. So those, yeah, are my thoughts.
And I think
I really want to know what you have on this. Like, I'm physically dying.
Huh?
You?
You, Myri.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
did I get it wrong? It's Myri.
it's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
Yeah, you can say Miri. I don't mind Miri either. It's all right. Yeah, so the thing that stood out to me was like the different kinds of paper and like Paris said the weathering on it. And so generally I think the ones with the blue tape looking like they've been there the longest, or they've had the most weathering. Because you can also see well, they're darker than the rest of them, but you can also see some like folding marks, I guess, like they've been folded up before, and then kind of like the person sat with those thoughts and pulled it back out or something like that. um and that's also actually which something that I forgot to mention when we were talking about Choker, is that the paper for the outro of Choker also has those same folding marks, I guess. So yeah, that tells me that it's something that whoever wrote it has been sitting with longer. And then I think pink, the ones that are taped up with pink tape, are slightly older too. And then the ones with yellow tape look like the newest kind of additions. But something that I still like, I'm a little bit confused about, is how they overlap, because sometimes the ones with yellow tape will be underneath ones that are older. So I don't know. It's still not completely clear to me how in which order they've been taped up. But yeah, also wanted to add on to what Paris said about the feeling of the room, and how it yeah, it's shaped like a cylinder, but it feels less claustrophobic to me, less circular than the Bounceman room, because it has those like angles and things, boxes sticking out, so there's like more structure to it, or more edge and angles, than just the completely circular room for Bounceman, which makes me feel like would be something that makes me go insane more, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are my thoughts.
Oh, sorry, my audio just did something very strange. What do we think about whether all of these notes are being left by one person or multiple people? Like, I'd be curious about what folks think about that.
I mean, I guess the handwriting is the same. but I can also see them being, since if we're talking about the lyrics, since they're talking about different people, I can also see the notes being presented as from different angles.
It's interesting thinking too about both the ideas of like this possibly being a memorial or a bunch of people leaving a note as they pass through after the discussion about like jumping down the whole thing from the last room. Like it's dark, but now I'm thinking of it.
Mhm.
And you very much can jump down this one again through
Yeah.
bounce,
Mhm.
quote
It's
unquote, at
not
the
your
bottom.
it's not your only option like the other one was, but it's an option.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this space is really interesting to me because my whole reaction to Redecorate as a song, like, it references three different people who are, in different stages of the experience of, you know, trying to stay alive. Um, and whether they succeed or fail, I think is up for debate. Um, but, it's very much like, if you've had the experience of being really on the edge of suicide, like sometimes you find like one foothold and like that's your foothold. And in that moment of like really confronting, like, am I going to die, like, am I going to make this choice, looking at your space and thinking, okay, well, how do I feel about like the way this is gonna like the state of this space and the state of how I'll be found, and you know considering like the effect of the people around you or effect of it on the people around you can be that foothold. um which I kind of think is, I have sort of like a unified theory of final songs on Fueled by Ramen releases, where like they're each like that's the theme. Like Goner is, a plea to, hey, help me out here.
Mhm.
It's let's ask for help. Truce is, let's make a deal with each other, like let's make a survival pact. Um, and I think that they're not all the same song, but they're all the same theme, which is, um, we're going to not die in this way. Um, and so like thinking about like the cyclical aspect, one, like, that's a thing like with people with major depression, sometimes we get there, several times in our lives, sometimes with more frequency than others. Um, and so you have to revisit that. Um, but also what's great about this room is that there are ways out that are like, one of them's really difficult to get to, one's a little easier, and one is death.
Mhm.
Um, and so like that really resonates in terms of, being poised on the edge of that choice, as we are in the song. Um, I think that this room reflects the song really well in that regard. And some folks, over the course of their lives, like they do this, over and over and over again. So you have like the older piece of paper, versus the fresher piece of paper. Maybe the color tape reflects like what tools you have or your state of mind, but it's interesting to me, like that's the sort of space this is.
I have something to
I
add
thought
if
that
that's
was
cool.
really insightful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
before you talk, I was like, that was really insightful, and thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I was thinking about Tyler saying, that, talking about, the goal of vialism being to kill yourself and make as much an impact on the people that you influence as you can.
Mhm.
So I was reading sociological studies of suicide, and what I was expecting to find, um, was that people, because suicides tended occur in clusters sometimes. Like they don't. That doesn't necessarily happen, but like it is a thing that occurs. Um, and I was expecting to find that it was among groups of people that were most like each other, but what was actually shown, at least in high schools, was suicide clusters tended to form sort of branching from kids who looked up to somebody who took their life that they saw as a higher status than them socially. So someone
Oof.
that was more influential than them, um, rather than a peer, and that really surprised me. And it made me reflect a lot on, Tyler talking about the responsibility you have, especially as someone who's very public facing, to not make that choice, because that choice is going to. I mean, literally, when Chester Bennington killed himself, I thought to myself, oh, I can do that. Okay. Like, that's a thing that I'm allowed to do. And so I see these clumps of papers that may be old or new, but, there are famous suicides like Sylvia Plath or what have you, people who will latch on to something that seems or feels bigger than them that they can emulate, rather than, people that kill themselves aren't serial file. They huddle in groups and they encourage each other, whether that's across time or across media spaces. And I don't mean that in an accusatory way necessarily. Everybody needs to form a narrative. Like, these letters that I've written are people that, even if they have made their choice already, it's still a struggle. They acknowledge the conflict in it. So this does feel to me like a memorial and a thing of, I don't know, it could either be really dark, this could be what, clusters of people that have made that choice look like, or just like notes taped near each other, like, yeah, I felt that. Like, I've passed through this space also. That's all I had to say.
Yeah,
I
that's
feel like
Yeah.
it could also easily be, whether this be one person or multiple people coming to this space, acknowledging that like that's an option, and leaving the note in like but I'm not. I don't want to go like this. I'm going to keep going type thing. I think
yeah,
that makes sense.
If I
Lewis
can,
stuff. Yeah, please.
well,
go.
just like one of the ways that I relate to this story a lot. Opposed to that piece of poetry that expresses it better than I'm going to express it right now, but I often think of the space of Dima as being like a space of rumination. Like it's not something that's really put there like in the text of the album itself. It's something that I like to impose in it, but I really like to imagine like the idea of wandering around Dima and having a sense of motion but without really going anywhere. That's something that I feel like this album has in some ways, like, or at least this lyric space definitely has kind of captured that feeling. So in terms of, is this multiple people or one person, like I like to imagine it as a single person coming back to this space and doing this almost ritualistic thing over and over of like sort of returning to a thought and mulling it over and leaving and returning and mulling it over and leaving and doing it over and over and over and over again, and
really
all
like
these
that.
many times. Yeah, it's really an image that I like because I like to imagine somebody pacing around this space and ending up at some central difficult spot of sort of spiraling around some thought and ending up at the one same place over and over, because that's how I relate to it in my own life. And like yeah, so I do like to imagine this as one person doing this in a very repetitive, almost ritualistic kind of way of just returning and just like writing down, because not to talk about my own personal experiences or whatever, like when I was like dealing with that kind of rumination a lot, it was frustrating because I would literally think the same thoughts, like the same words over and over, like every day for hours, for months, for years, and so it was like to see this room very much like felt like it was an expression of that thing that I already was putting into the narrative that I was like, and so it was kind of exciting for me to see it like written out in this way, because it's like it's this thing of thinking through these same words over and over again in this particular space of returning to it and then leaving and then returning to it and doing it again. And I just like I really like to imagine that as the narrative of what was like happening in this room of just a person, you know, singular person.
Absolutely,
Um,
yeah.
I think that's
Now
really-
that you
Yeah.
mention it, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it really
Especially
does.
like with how that interview kind of mentioned that this is in some way supposed to like I was going to bring this up at the end anyways, like after this, but where that interview mentioned that they were aiming to like this is a journey through Tyler's mind effectively.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for the repetition being rumination makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It makes it fit a lot better. Which like he's been open about that like it's cyclical for him. It's not a one-time struggle type thing. So but yeah, also as far as the whole like depiction of this being in a way a depiction of Tyler's mind and trying to find your way through it and where he was coming from with different songs. I'm kind of jumping off on a tangent a little, so I can come back to this later or continue. But it does also kind of make me think about, again, how I've mentioned looking for like patterns in the songs and symbols that come up. One that's super consistent too is the house. And at one point, eventually, there was something he said in, I think it was the interview with Zane Lowe in his studio, where he mentions, he describes songs as like windows to a house. Songs being the windows in which you can kind of see into the house, but he's not going to open the door. What he tells you is what you get the window, you don't get invited in. However, he was saying that.
Yeah, I think it was
which
the
then-
was it the trench interview?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm not going to give you the keys to that house just yet. I think.
Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
that's what I was going for. But did kind of click for me that like he brings up houses again. Houses are a super recurring like motif through the song, and it makes perfect sense that like he's using house and rooms and hallways and windows and stuff like that as part of like describing his mind, his headspaces, how he compartmentalizes different things as like rooms and stuff like that. So that was sort of an overarching meta thing that just happened to tie in with what I was seeing here. Like, it's a room for a particular headspace and particular issue type thing.
Absolutely. Agree a lot. Okay, I am gonna back inside because my laptop is gonna die.
Oh no.
But yeah, it's fine. Does anybody have like thoughts about redecorate, or do we want to like I don't know, talk about like the effect, the overall space, or like any sort of other thoughts that we want to throw in about like how this? Because I think it would be really interesting to talk about how we imagine this space like fits into like Dima, or how we imagine it, which we kind of are already talking about, like what Katie was just saying, like about imagining the spaces being like from Tyler's head or whatever.
Is
But
it is it okay if we actually call it for now? And
Yeah.
come back to this?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Sweet. And
Then my laptop will not die, and I don't have to go back inside. Okay. Yeah, this
Stay
was a
alive,
long call,
laptop.
so I hope you guys are not all way too tired.
Yeah, I want to, and I know I said this in the chat, I want to specifically shout out to Lua, who did a tremendous amount of work on the back end, doing the
Yeah.
work to make this space possible.
Aw, thank you.
You rock. You are Absolutely. You were stoppable, but not totally always. You did a really great job. Like
Thank
I just I'm blown
Thank
away
you,
like how much
Lilo.
work you did.
you.
Snaps.
Yeah. I also
And
just
also
wanted.
like
Oh, sorry.
oh go ahead. No,
Uh,
you go.
okay, I just wanted to add to that because I've been in the fandom or whatever you want to call it, since 2016, and I really like felt a shift when Trench happened, and then like getting to know Lua and how I don't know how you brought people together and like
Oh my gosh.
created those spaces for discussion. I feel like I haven't experienced that before in the fandom, and so yeah, I just want to let you know that it does make a big difference what
Thank
you're
you.
doing.
Oh my gosh. I
To the
give
Lua Appreciation
words.
Podcast, where we appreciate Lua.
Thank you, Lua.
Just imagine me sitting here
Also,
awkwardly like I'm doing.
Aw.
also,
Yeah.
I've been trying to reply to people in the chat, but like, so we were, I don't even know how many people are left, but like, we were talking about maybe doing this more often and maybe like rotating people because like all of y'all are super cool and like basically just like, I don't know. If
We might do
if
this
we
again.
like doing this, yeah, we might do this again. So if anybody just wants to be like, hey, here's what I thought, or like if anyone wants to DM me with their thoughts about anything I said because I couldn't read the chat the whole time, or anyone else, I think we're all down for that. And like,
We can also
yeah,
do
I
it
don't
in a
know. I
format
just,
where
yeah.
like you don't have to. It doesn't have to be the same 4 or 5 people for the entire time. People can come and go.
Yeah, just thoughts about different things that we might do. So, I don't know if anyone has thoughts. Yeah, I'm just saying this so people know that it's not like the 5 of us. We're gonna
Yeah.
do this and then whatever. Just trying to open up that
I don't know what you're
conversation.
talking
And
about.
also,
I think that we're all deputizing ourselves to be in charge of
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Really.
ideas in the
Of
fandom.
all
Like
thoughts.
we are
As
now the
well.
ultimate arbiters of 21
I'm the only one
Pilots
who's ever had a thought
interpretation.
before. Okay. Also, like, I like all of you guys very much. So thank you for hanging out with me for 3 hours and talking
Aw.
to me.
Yes, that's awesome. Thank you for being our moderator.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
All
And
right.
thank you folks for
Cool.
coming to like listen and chat with us and pay attention to us being weird and loving a thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm gonna hit the
Like
button
Okay.
that.
now.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit that button.
Bye.